He cannot die, in his last world at least. Can this new nonsensical world prove to be a challenge to that? Or will death still be his bitch? Hello everyone, Omni Sensei here with What If I Was Reborn in the DC verse as the Shadow of Death? Part 1. If you enjoy this content, please smash the like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out the original story linked in the description. I hope you enjoy listening to it.
Phew, quite cold outside. Perfect for the next adventure. A young dark-haired man stated. He was rubbing his itching eyes, seemingly just woken up. He had only a grey bathrobe on. A large part of his chest was apparent, and he didn't care. He appeared to be quite leisurely, lazy, and simply living the life. He also appeared to be healthy with a well-defined and maintained body, and his smile could tell anyone of his satisfaction with his life, so one has to wonder what led to his next course of action. He wasn't too handsome, but handsome nonetheless. Let's say he lies in the average line of handsomeness, though his healthy and strong body gives him a few more points. He took one last glance at the window before going to wear his clothes. There really wasn't much to see outside, just a small town, cars and pickup trucks passing by from time to time. However, there was a bit of beauty apparent far away, green hills and grey rocks in the far distance. That was his goal. He wore his clothes, which consists of a black sports suit and a grey coat, quite the inconsistent clothing, but he cared for none of that now. He picked up his large duffel bag before heading downstairs. He handed the hotel receptionist the room key before getting into his car. He also has a pickup truck, a black Ram 3500 to be specific, simple and nice. He placed his bag in it, then set out. The way there felt nothing but boring. The beauty of nature kept that from happening, and the scenery only got better the closer he got to his destination. A dramatic scenery. He made sure to drive far away to an isolated place, right in the coastline, at one of the most dangerous cliffs in the world. The man exited his truck already feeling the coldness of the air and the heavy wind that's especially dangerous if one's too close to the edge. Like he was. He glanced at the waves colliding with the rocks far down the cliff, and the ocean going as far as the eyes can see. The beauty of nature is something he will never get bored by. The man walked back to his car with a smile of excitement apparent on his face. He was in his late 20s, yet his expression was that of a child looking forward to unpacking his Christmas gift. The difference is that his Christmas gift is strange, too bizarre. He took off his coat and even went as far as taking off the upper part of his sports suit, leaving only the sports pants on. He then took off his shoes and placed all of his stuff in his truck before rubbing his hands together and walking towards the cliff edge. I wonder if it'll be like last time or something different. Something more exciting. I missed this. Well, it was my fault. My last adventure was too dangerous, leaving me with broken legs. Now that I think about it, this is even more dangerous. Perhaps I'll even die. His bright brown eyes shone more than ever as he spoke to himself. It was as if he truly believed he will live through it. His goal was obvious. What was going through his head wasn't known, because before him is a jump almost nearing the 100 meters mark. That's certain death. However, his goal doesn't seem to be suicide, and he doesn't seem to be that crazy. Phew, no reason to wait any further, just jump. And indeed he jumped without even a sliver of hesitation, and his scream sounded right after, one of excitement and happiness as he fell to what can presume to be his death. Wait, what? This is new. However, something different happened this time, something he had never witnessed, as he muttered to himself. A bright light that formed into a large bright whirlwind formed far beneath him, and he didn't get to wonder much about it as he fell right through it. All that the man witnessed after that is an even brighter, lighter white from all directions that seems to go for only a few seconds. The man didn't seem to be too worried as he thought in his mind, "Did I die? Well, that's a surprise, but what about the light before?" He didn't dwell much on that thought, nor did he get time to, as he muttered one last thing before disappearing. Well, whatever happens, happens. And this. His words came to a halt as he found himself in a dark alley. The stench was bad and he could see puddles of, well, disgusting things all around. What's happening? And what just happened? The man was certainly confused, but also strangely calm, as if what happened isn't the most bizarre thing he's ever witnessed. He started observing his surroundings, noticing it was incredibly dark. It was night and there were very few lights around. Moreover, he had only his sports pants on, and he was barefooted. Those weren't exactly good circumstances. He wasn't bothered by that. In fact, he was smiling as he thought to himself, freaking exciting, an adventure I didn't expect. Now I just have to solve the mystery. He started walking through the alleyways, not that bothered by the disgusting stench. He noticed a few beggars around, and the deeper he got, the more there were. He continued until he reached what looks like an abandoned warehouse. Its state was quite poor, so the poor chose to take it from themselves. It was indeed filled with beggars. The man knew he needs to get information about his location first, so chose the easiest way to get them. One of the used newspapers around the trash. He opened the newspaper and took a close look at it, specifically anything that can insinuate his location. Gotham? Various expressions surfaced on his face until he simply let it all out. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha. He was laughing like a maniac, and he would have continued to do so if not for the timely interruption of one of the homeless. Buddy, have you gone crazy? You look better than most of us. Did the wife throw you out of the house or something? Indeed, it honestly feels like the whole world has thrown me out, though I'm thankful for that. He recovered his normal cheerful self and responded. Or? The wife was that much of a nuisance, huh? Anyway, you're welcome here until you get your shit back together. I'm Ralph, by the way. The homeless man said, too used to cases such as these. The homeless man also got his answer on the reason behind all the scars all over the man's body. Perhaps the wife beats him up, quite roughly at that. Well, I guess thank you for having me, and I'm Ian, just Ian. Ralph took a bite from the apple in his hand before lifting it and saying, Want a bite? Nah, I'm not hungry, not yet at least. Well, this is your first lesson, be an opportunist. Take every opportunity before you, no matter how small. That bite of apple could save your day someday. I will also give you some extra advice if you stay here. Never ever argue with anyone, be a good boy. We have nothing to lose and everything to gain, so we can really do anything. I see, I'll make sure to keep that in mind, Ian responded. A smile was still on his face, seemingly not bothered by the circumstances around him. Ralph thought nothing of Ian's strangeness, he just assumed his wife was that much of a bitch that even such circumstances were acceptable for him. Ralph raised his brows as he seized up Ian from top to bottom, then he pointed out something. You actually smell good, as if you've just taken a shower. That probably won't matter that much, but you're also good looking. I'll give you a week or two before you start to smell like the rest of us. Before that, keep a low profile, else people will start eyeing you. For several reasons. Fitting in is another piece of advice for you. Do you usually help everyone like this? Ian curiously asked. Sometimes, I've been there. I needed that help at one point, and someone did help, so I understand. Anyway, follow me inside. You can stay in my place for a while, if you can call it that. Ralph started walking inside the warehouse directly after saying that, while stroking his long grey sticky beard. As he had just said, it wasn't much of a place as much of a blanket spread in an area with a lot of garbage around. Oi, Uncle Ralph, who's the new kid? In Ralph's place were two people, both seemed like middle-aged men, They look and smell just as bad as Ralph, but that seemed to be the normality around here. Ian also wanted to get more information first before doing anything else. He wanted to verify whether this is actually happening or he just had a concussion and he's actually lying in the hospital like always. Yeah, I'll just give him a place by the side there. Ralph casually responded. He seemed to be the boss of the place, not the warehouse but just this small corner. Then, as we say to all newcomers, everyone here fetches their living for themselves, don't expect sympathy from anyone. The other middle-aged man also added, also, did you get robbed? You seem fresh for a homeless. Ian sat down on the blanket while answering, yeah, I kinda was robbed of my house and all of my stuff. He technically didn't lie. The middle-aged man raised his brows, oh. Ralph then explained in Ian's place, you know, marriage problems, and perhaps divorce. The greatest legal robbery to ever exist. Oh, I understand. The two beggars eyed Ian with sympathy and understanding, it happens to the best of us. I guess, but I'm not worried, I rather see this as a fortune. I will surely make the best of it. Ian said while observing the surroundings, the people to be specific. It's all too real. I can feel pain clearly and everything I observed so far says that this is reality. I was never one to stay in disbelief for long, so I'll indeed make the best of it. Most importantly, if I'm truly in the world I think I am, then the possibilities all endless, and if my gift works in here, then what lies before me is a magical adventure. I can't wait to let all my... His thought process was interrupted by one of the middle-aged men, right, surely everything is gonna be all right. That's what we all think before realizing the painful reality. Enough of the gloomy talk. We'll stay together for a while, so let me introduce you to each other. This is Ian and those two are Mike and Barney. Ralph interrupted them and said. The three nodded at each other, then Ian said, do you have any recent newspaper? The one I have is quite old. Also, any spare shoes? Quite the guy we have here, huh? But here, these were my old ones, so they're in a bad state, Mike said before handing him a pair of brown dirty shoes. Ralph brought a newspaper from his large brown coat and handed it to him. I just picked this one today, give it back when you're done with it. You're also keeping up with that Bats hit? Crazy things happening in the world, ain't that right? Barney casually said while picking up a bottle of wine. Ian smiled and nodded. He had already got the answer he wanted but still continued to read through the newspaper. I am really in a fictional universe. Just what the hell is going on? I gotta say though, I'm already hooked, I very much like where this is going. As one may have already understood, he's quite the strange man with a strange gift. After all, he has seen and experienced things that are kind of magical, not as much as this but experiences that made him numb to certain emotions. By the way, have this, it's quite cold this time of day, Ralph said while handing him a brown sweater, quite dirty with a few holes. Ian took it and wore it right away with no change in his expression, which led Ralph to ask the question, you don't seem bothered by all of this, used to such stuff. Yeah, I've gone through worse. I like to camp outside and go adventuring in dangerous circumstances, so I've had to deal with a lot. Ian started stroking his chin while saying so. He then said something strange, something that baffled the trio, quietly enough for only the three men to hear. Want to rob a store and get some cash? He said casually as if it's the easiest thing to do. What nonsense are you speaking? Want us to get shot? Ralph responded, apprehension apparent in his voice. One might think that it's easy to do such a thing in a corrupted city, but it's the opposite. You'll likely face a corrupt cop, and they'll likely shoot you down without a second thought before taking their service fees from the store manager. There are so many possibilities on how things would go, and death is many of them. To a certain extent, meeting Batman is a fortune, he'll at least leave you alive. Ian released a small smile. You said it yourselves, we have nothing to lose. If we get shot down, then whatever. Think about it, why take a bite of the apple when we can take a box of apples for ourselves? Are you willing to stay like this forever, just waiting for opportunities to get to you? Let's create them ourselves. The three were a bit stunned by his words for a bit though. Ralph, the experienced old man, got his wits back together. That is actually very convincing, but the other two were also hesitating, so Ian gave them one last push. It's okay, take your time. Just know that I have a plan, and when you're prepared to hear it, let me know. They really had nothing to lose. They were like broken dolls, just doing what they were programmed to do, but will jump on the first opportunity to become more than that. Ian's confidence certainly helped in convincing them more, but at the end of the day, they've only met him today. Silence returned to the area. Most of the homeless were already asleep, and the ones that weren't were silent. It wasn't long before the group went to sleep, including Ian. In the most run-down place of the city, near the sewers, things were strangely peaceful. Everyone was just trying to live. They spread around the city in the day, scavenging for something to eat and anything useful. Some never come back, and Ian came to know why. Gunshots sounded as Ian and the group scavenged in an isolated alleyway. It was far away, and the three men were used to it, so they had little to no reaction. You seemed confident yesterday. You have experience? Ralph asked, quite curious. Nah, not really. Never needed to rob anything, but I am sure things will work out just fine. Ralph shook his head at that. Perhaps I gave the kid too much credit. He's very impulsive. Why are you doing nothing? Do you think we'd think what we find? Go on and look for food or something. Barney reprimanded Ian, who was just standing there and watching them. I'll be on my way and look for food somewhere else. See you guys at night. He left directly after that, while the trio just shook their head, thinking the same thing. Kids these days. Ian started just walking aimlessly, though he had a goal in mind. He just headed into what he presumed to be the more wealthy part of the city. He wasn't specifically an anomaly there, as he could see beggars basically everywhere, especially in this part of the city. Moreover, one would have to take a very close look to see his homeless statue. He went to one of the large supermarkets there, and no one paid much attention to him as he just entered and started going around the place. Somewhere on the way, his dirty shoes disappeared. He walked into the shoes section and picked up 2 different pairs of shoes. He hastily put one pair on, then slowly started trying out the other pair. He put it back in its place, and now he has new shoes. He of course made sure he wasn't caught by the camera, and he did a similar thing when getting a shirt and a sweater. There were a lot of people in the supermarket, but no one really paid attention to him. It's really that easy to steal things, people just don't pay attention. Ian started casually walking out, though he made a stop next to one of the workers and asked, "Hi, I'm curious, is there a sales day? It's my first time in here." "There is, but on Saturday. Some products are always on sale, so check them out. Also, their price won't change even on the sales day, but most other products' price will go down." He seemed well versed in the craft as he responded naturally. Ian smiled and said, "Nah, I will just come back on Saturday." Then he just walked out, leaving the worker muttering under his breath, "Cheap bastard." Oh, if only he knew. Ian wasn't done as he went on a stealing spree of food, though he remained a bit cautious. He knew that luck was on his side. It has always been on his side except for it when it wasn't. He then headed back to the warehouse by evening. He had to ignore most of the beggars there giving him some strange looks. He did look as fresh as hell with the new clothes. He doesn't fit in. Most, however, retracted their glances after seeing him joining Ralph's group. The latter was an influential figure among the homeless. Where did you get those? The wife took you back? But if so, Why come back here? Barney was the first to ask, unable to hold his curiosity. Nah, I just stole them. It was actually quite easy. I expected something to go wrong, but here I am. Ian responded while opening the black plastic bag in his hand. He picked up 2 apples, an orange, and a piece of bread from it before giving the bag to Ralph. Here, split them between you all. Ralph hastily took the bag and took a look at what was inside. You stole all of this. To which Ian nodded. Ralph started eyeing his surroundings directly after, noticing several of the beggars watching them. Barney, Mike, bring the metal poles. The duo instantly got to action as they started looking through the garbage next to them, pulling for rusty poles. They placed them in the center of the group, ready for if anyone tries anything, and only then did they start devouring the food like they've been starving for months. Ralph took a deep breath afterward. What's your plan? Ian finally smiled and glanced at Mike and Barney. The two hesitated for a bit before nodding. Well, it's quite simple, but I'll have to get you all some new clothes. Also, Barney and Mike, you two will have to clean yourselves up. And so he did. He was more cautious this time and went to different supermarkets, but he got what he wanted. Only a few days passed before the group started their new adventure. They could be seen in a certain street, spread out. Their goal was a small store, a good store chosen by Ian as the goal. Barney was on the other side of the street, hiding while keeping an eye on the store. Once the opportunity arose, he started signaling for someone to take action. That person or persons were none other than Ian and Mike, who hastily started running towards the store with a mask on, and Barney also followed after them. There were many people in the streets, and they knew they'll probably inform the police, so the group had to act quickly. They chose the exact moment the shopkeeper or manager was out of his cage to go in. Gotham is extremely dangerous, so shop owners made such precautions, an anti-bullet plastic barrier isolating them from the visitors. The group had to wait for an opportunity for several days to take action. Ian used it to put a knife to the worker's throat and said, "Make a move, and you're dead. Just do exactly as I say." His tone was calm and collected, leaving the victim to believe he's experienced, so he did follow his instruction. Neither Barney nor Mike spoke a word. They just collected a few expensive things from the store before collecting the money while Ian looked through the shopkeeper's desk, and just as he expected, he found a gun in there, a Glock. Hey, very nice. Ian then calmly used it to knock out the shaking store worker. The group swiftly ran out of the store, then directly to an alleyway not far away. They couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief not seeing any cop close by. They ran until they reached their destination. An old man was lying there with his extremely long greasy beard lying on the ground next to a rusty shopping cart with a lot of garbage inside. He was the old Ralph. None spoke a thing, they just started taking their clothes off, as under them were another different set of clothes. Ian's clothes were that of a dirty beggar while Mike and Barney were clean. They put everything they stole, their mask and clothes, deep in the shopping cart beneath all the disgusting garbage. Then Barney and Mike started walking out of the alley to the street from another exit while acting just like normal friends, joking and talking to each other. Ian, on the other hand, covered himself with a dirty brown coat after spraying a bit of dark chocolate on his face and dirtying his hair a bit. He then slept next to the old man. Well, good night, old Ralph. Ian didn't really think about his plans much. He's the adventurous type, the one who turns off his brain most of the time to make things more exciting. His gift allowed for him to have that luxury, or more like, his gift is what drove him to be how he is. However, his plan ended up working out just fine. The police did end up searching the alleyway and ended up coming across the duo. They were only 2 officers, and they had their guns out. They're just 2 lowly beggars. The other officer nodded before yelling, "Hi! Wake up!" However, they got little to no response. Ralph just moved a bit, getting into a more comfortable position. One of the officers used his radio to ask, "Hi, Marty asks the store manager if any of the robbers had a beard. I know they had a mask, but I'm asking if any had a large beard. Trust me, it would be noticeable even under a mask." He was talking with his fellow officers on the radio for about a minute. He really didn't think it'd be the beggars, but he at least made sure, yeah, it's not them. The other officer walked to the shopping cart, which was covered by a grey dirty cloth. He moved it a bit before letting go. It was filthy and wet, making him frown. He also noticed just more garbage beneath it, so they just moved on. As for Barney and Mike, they were lost in the crowd of people in the city. It wasn't long before Ian and Ralph woke up. They pushed the shopping cart with them and made their way to an alleyway near the warehouse. There they found Barney and Mike waiting for them. "We did it! How much did we?" They both were extremely excited that they even forgot how to speak. Ian allowed them to have their moment and even let out a laugh of his own. "Unfortunately, there isn't much to make from stores. We only scored about $80, a watch, and all the things you guys took." "Wait, $80? Holy hell, that can feed us for like a few months. Moreover, we also took all that extra shit with us, so much food." They were in the life of homelessness for a long time, so they learned the craft. The ways of minute-maxing are in their blood. $80 could even feed them for a year. It's really not much. I think we just got to our homeless life, so we see it as a lot. Imagine going to jail for years just for $80. Jail isn't a forgiving place, I can tell you that, especially in this shithole of a city. Ralph started sharing his experience, though he couldn't hide the smile on his face. It really has been a long time since he felt like he's achieved something. Indeed, it's not much for the risk, but we have to start somewhere. Ian agreed. Barney's eyes started shining with brilliance as if he had just discovered the solution to immortality and to existence. "How about we take over an entire store? Right? We can have all the food inside. Holy hell, right?" Mike next to him couldn't help but smack his head. "What nonsense are you saying? Won't cops just shoot us down? Like, how do you expect us to take everything in the store?" However, Ian heard this and saw an opportunity as his light brown eyes shone under the darkness of the moonlight. "No, that's actually a brilliant idea. Do you know what's the fastest way to make money?" The trio of Ralph, Mike, and even Barney was confused. "It is. I don't know. I guess by stealing banks." "Nah, it's probably by having a big company or something." Ian let out a chuckle. "It's actually quite simple. All you have to do is to get people to make money for you. Let's take drug dealers as an example. The ones who make the most money are the ones who distribute drugs to lower dealers. The latter do most of the work while the former reap most of the benefits. Stealing from banks will attract way more attention from the cops and in-depth investigation, while they won't pay as much attention to store robberies as long as we keep it clean." "I still don't get it," Mike said, though Ralph on the side seemed to have understood something. Ian explained further. "First, we'll have to rob a few more stores then, but our cell phones, not just to communicate, but also to keep pictures and information of the people who'll work for us. Also, if someone working for us lost the products 2 times, they'll be fired, no questions asked. This is to make sure no one screws us over. We'll also give them the same exact products and a certain amount of money they have to bring back. They can keep the rest. It all depends on how good they are in selling things, but the products would obviously have to be much cheaper than they were in stores. We'll also have to be careful lest a bat comes knocking on our doors. We need a front, a scapegoat." Do you really not have experience?" Ralph couldn't help but question. He himself had a bit of experience, but before he had any chance to gain anything, he ended up behind bars. "I guess I kind of do have experience from movies and books I have watched and read, and it all worked out fine." Ian started stroking his chin. seemingly thoughtful, but when he responded, the trio's face couldn't help but twitch as Barney questioned. Sometimes he can say the smartest thing, most other times he speaks the language of nonsense. Wait? Your ideas came from movies and books. Then why do they make so much sense? Don't mind that. Let's start, but we first need a base where we will store things. Any ideas? I have an idea. In the sewers not far from the warehouse, we just have to clean the place and guard it. Ralph spoke his mind. That started the legend of the petty thieves. They leave absolutely nothing behind, even if it's worthless. It's worth something in their However, at one point it got so ridiculous that even some influential figures had to interfere. We'll pull out for a while. You can do whatever you want in the meantime. We'll surely come back, but not anytime soon. Understand? Mike said to another middle-aged man standing before him. Despite trying to hide, the man was extremely excited. He was the third beggar to join the petty thieves, and he made his way up the ranks. It did occur to him sometimes to try taking over the group because the two leaders barely do anything, and he has a stronger relationship with the subordinates. However, in the end, he didn't have to do anything. Everything was given to him without any trouble. Greed is a sin that can blind the wisest of men. He still had some doubts, but still chose to go on with this. This is after all a huge opportunity, and he can control the business completely to counter whatever it is they might try. Furthermore, he thought back on the two beggars that joined before him, yet their position is lower than him. That led him to believe that his talent was noticed by the petty thieves. Mike made his way out of the base. He looked clean and well-dressed, nothing luxurious but just simple new clothes. He then took a cab, with his destination being a small apartment in the easy part of the city. He did make sure he wasn't being followed though. Within the apartment, he found his two close friends waiting for him. They were wearing similar clothes to him, casual clothes. Ralph was the same, except he couldn't get rid of his colossal grey beard. The difference is that it's clean now. It's done? Ralph questioned, to which Mike nodded before joining them on the couch. Signs of nervousness were apparent on three. Ralph directly picked up his phone and called someone after that. It's done. You're gonna be okay, right? Once he got his answer, he hung up. The calm Mike, who behaved properly for just a minute, was nowhere to be seen. Nervousness was overwhelming him, and sweat was dripping his forehead. Holy hell! He's really crazy. Barney couldn't help but mutter. Duh, I said that a month ago when he started wondering how we're still alive. I mean, he thought we'd all die for Christ's sake, yet thought nothing of it. Mike really seemed triggered regarding the topic. But that's not too strange, right? I mean, we all knew the risk. Barney responded while stroking his hair, feeling it not greasy for once in a long time. Then what about the time when he tried to shoot himself with a gun? And Mike was getting even more triggered. I mean, he must have known the gun isn't working. Surely that must be the case. Barney also seemed hell-bent on making Mike even more triggered. Mike took a deep breath. Then what about now? His meeting with the Falcone family for his not-so-thought-of plan. He said it himself, for Christ's sake. He even said that he'll likely not come back today, and if so, we should leave the city. He literally was talking about death as if it's amusing to him. There is definitely something wrong with his head. He further added, "Why are we talking about this in the first place? Could it be that you want to pull out?" Barney wondered after finding no counter-agreement. What? No, of course not. I don't want to go back to the slums. Plus, it all worked out so far, so we'll surely be okay. That's how the agreement always goes and ends. It all worked out just fine. They all thought they'd be dead by now, yet here they are with a few $1,000 saved up. Ralph, what do you think? Will we be okay? Ralph was much calmer than the other two. He was quite old, in his late 50s, so he wasn't troubled by death. Well, Ian might not believe it himself, but he's quite smart. His plans always seem to work out no matter how simple and crazy they are, so there comes a point where you have to start believing. The center of their conversation has just exited a cab with a black briefcase in his hand. He was as always wearing casual clothes, the same ones he stole almost 2 months ago. He did make sure to clean them regularly though. He casually walked towards an alleyway and started looking around. This should be it, right? This does look like a trap though, only an idiot would go inside. He was standing in front of a black door as he started knocking on it. He only stopped once he heard the sound of the door lock getting open. Why so much knocking? Just knock once, I have ears. The man who opened the door was in quite a bad mood as he yelled at Ian. The hell do you want anyway? Ian let out a chuckle, not scared whatsoever. Sorry about that, I'm quite excited about this. I have a meeting with the boss here, so please let him know. Who? The man got a bit more serious. Business is business after all. Just tell him the petty one is here, he should understand. The guard raised his eyebrows at that and eyed Ian from top to bottom before locking the door. Ian didn't have to wait for long, just a few minutes, which he used to imagine some stuff, death stuff as usual. Come in. The man led him to a small hall where he found a man seated on a one-seat couch. Behind him stood several of his henchmen with guns in their hands. Petty one, ho, or petty thieves? I heard a lot about your group. I gotta say, your offer was enticing, especially since you targeted me for that. I'm Frank Falcone, as you already know. Mind introducing yourself? Frank calmly said while smoking the large tobacco in his hand. Ian smiled and answered honestly, sure, I'm Ian Rose, and well, I'm excited about this deal as well. Frank raised his brows. Ian Rose, such a unique name, but I guess you didn't choose it for yourself, or perhaps you did, who knows. Anyway, I hope you don't mind me asking, but where is the actual boss of the petty thieves? I talked to him on the phone, and he's surely not you. And no offense, but you don't look like the boss type either. Ian started scratching his head, seemingly embarrassed. You see, the boss is a bit of a coward. He seems to be proud of that, so he sent me since I'm not a coward. Frank seemed to be baffled because he just kept eyeing Ian for a good 10 seconds. He then let it out, a long laugh of amusement while turning his head to his guards. Ha 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 ha, that's funny, like funny funny, can you believe this guy? His people indeed joined him in the laugh and only stopped when he stopped. He only stopped because he noticed Ian also joining them in the laugh. He was truly getting baffled by now. You think this is funny? Frank yelled as he picked up his gun. Here is the thing that you don't realize. I was already debating whether to eliminate you or not before you even came here, and here you are now convincing me to do that. Moreover, what your boss might not have told you is that his plan is just not good enough. I need more. A bunch of store-stealing thieves is not enough. I see, so that's why the boss thought of that, Ian muttered in understanding, just loud enough to be heard. Say what? Frank questioned. Well, you see, the petty thieves have just been promoted from food thieves to jewelry thieves. The boss planned a jewelry store heist and we succeeded just last night actually. That specific store is usually closed this day, so it should only be discovered tomorrow. Wait. First, stop calling yourselves the petty thieves, it sounds weird. Second, you robbed a jewelry store just yesterday? And which one? Ian raised his eyebrows and said, well, the news started calling us that. It's not like we chose it. I also think it doesn't fit and... He wanted to continue with some nonsense, but he noticed Frank had started to lose it, so he got to the main point. We robbed a jewelry store in the west side of the city, and we robbed it clean, leaving nothing inside. It's specifically in the territory of the Jubelt's family. Perhaps it's their property? Don't know. Ian then placed the briefcase on the table, causing the henchmen in the room to be a bit cautious. Their guns were already aimed at him. The briefcase has the true petty thief's location as well as a small share of the jewelry. We left the majority of the valuables in the base for our deal, and only took a small share as to not make the police too suspicious. Frank strangely looked at Ian while waving his gun around, with little to no care about his nervous henchman. I take it back, you people seem to know what you're doing. However, what's stopping me from just getting rid of you now, and taking the briefcase? Unless it's empty. Ian raised his eyebrows in surprise. Empty? I didn't think of that, but no, everything is inside. Honestly, it's okay if you kill me now, it's what it is. If you don't, then hopefully we'll have a long fruitful business relationship. We can steal things, but we have no connections to sell them, and this is where you come in. This is something we both need, so I hoped it will go well. Frank nodded his head with a smile before ordering, "Open it." Ian shrugged his shoulders and did as told. He slowly opened the briefcase. Surprisingly, what he said was true. "You're a strange one, aren't you?" Frank stood up, and as Ian noticed, he isn't right in the head. Frank circled around him until he stood right behind Ian's couch. But you see, I still feel like you people gave me no respect, and I don't allow that. The offer, however, is enticing, but Frank without hesitation aimed his gun at Ian's right hand and pulled the trigger while saying, "But I have to give a little punish 'em." Frank's face froze. He had to stop talking because he didn't hear a gunshot sound, he only heard a fainter sound of the barrel being stuck. He still remained a bit calm and pulled the trigger again, and again, yet the same thing happened, and Ian remained just as defenseless throughout the entire incident. He even seemed surprised for some reason. "Why isn't it working, who?" Frank finally snapped at his underlings. "You." "Yes, you tell me why?" He pointed his gun at the scared subordinate while yelling, truly losing it. He then pulled the trigger, and everyone in the room froze because a bullet was fired, and into the underling's skull it went. "Oh? The gun's actually working? Sorry about that." Frank was baffled for a bit before getting his wits back and fixing his suit up. He turned his attention to Ian, who seemed to still be surprised as he just looked at his right hand. "Well, aren't you the lucky one? Go on now, get it back together and get the hell out of here. I will talk with your boss." Ian strangely glanced at Frank before standing up and leaving. "I genuinely thought I'd end up in the hospital like always. I won't die, but getting hurt is common, so what's happening here? Did my power get stronger? But according to what I know, that happens only unless a gunshot to my hand can kill me, but I know that won't happen unless untreated." Ian stood outside for a minute or so before coming to a conclusion. "I have no idea, so whatever, it is what it is." He shrugged his shoulders, a common occurrence in his life. Never deal with the problem, just ignore it, whatever. That's something he has the luxury to do because of his circumstances. He put on his earphones and started listening to music on his way back to the apartment. Anticipation was apparent on his face. It has only been 2 months since his arrival in this new wonderful world, a dangerous world where death is but a common occurrence. People would usually be surprised if a world-shattering failed to occur every month, though it has been relatively peaceful for him so far. He also knows why. DC is a comic series he has grown up on but doesn't remember that much of it. He deemed that it's still very early in the life of this world. At least, things won't get too crazy too soon, too bad. He didn't bring the apartment key with him just in case, so he had to knock on the door, and the door was opened by all 3 of his partners in crime. They were both baffled and excited to see him alive. They actually accepted. Ian let out a small laugh. Indeed, we're in. We have our connection. Ralph let out a sigh of relief while the other two started jumping around in excitement like children. Yay! We made it! Now let the fun begin. Even Ian was excited. This way of life isn't bad at all. In fact, he has been continuously thinking about how to make it even more dangerous, and it's finally happening. Ian took a deep breath as he sat on the couch. Calmness returned to his face as he ordered, "Okay, enough celebration. Let's get to the serious stuff." So I have been reading a few crime books to learn more about our craft, and I indeed learned a lot. The trio remained relatively calm with only a few of their face muscles twitching. His absurdity is incomprehensible. However, it all worked out fine so far, so surely he must know what he's doing. Right. This marks the end of the petty thieves. We can't clean the entire place anymore, Ian stated while eyeing the hesitating Barney. Go on, speak your mind. See, can we not? Maybe they won't suspect that we're still out there if we take like 85% of things. I just can't imagine doing a heist and leaving all the other valuables inside. I swear I feel like losing my mind just imagine that. Now it was only Mike and Ralph's face muscles that twitched while Ian looked him with appreciation, immensely proud of the apprentice who surpassed the master in the art of pettiness. Trust me, I understand how you feel. However, what you all fail to understand is how nigh impossible our previous heist was. The odds were entirely against us, and even I believed we'll end up dead, in prison, or in Arkham Asylum. You see, I told Frank Falcone that we cleaned the place up, but I don't think he understood what I meant. I bet that not even once did he imagine that we literally cleaned the entire place. That's how unlikely the heist was. Moreover, we've given up on our organization. The police will raid the base tomorrow and apprehend the true leader of the petty thieves. We can never allow even a silver of suspicion to rise in the good cops. Frank has a corrupt officer in the PD, and since he'll do the arrest and everything, he'll definitely rise through the ranks. That's what he wants, an officer that can become the new commissioner of the GCPD before someone else does it. I know there is an officer they can't but on his way to that position, so do you understand? Granted, the jewelry store they robbed was quite small, one of the smallest in the city, and there wasn't much jewelry inside. It also wasn't well guarded, which is due to basically no one believing anyone would actually rob from a crime family to such a degree at that. Barney was disappointed but nonetheless understood. The other two, on the other hand, were impressed. Ian, however, wasn't finished as seriousness surfaced on his face. The most important thing, however, is Frank is not to be trusted at all. He is an impulsive, ambitious person whose only goal is to rise through the ranks of the Falcone family. According to what I gathered, he's a long relative of the Falcone family. They don't seem to trust him that much, and for a good reason. Once we do our part, he'll definitely try to get rid of us. Mike gulped with nervousness and asked, "So what should we do?" Ian released a mischievous smile. "We'll screw him over before he does it. We'll use him as a connection to gain more connections, and gain funds because the money we made so far is nothing. Literally just a few $1,000. I have a nice heist in mind. We also need to get Barney an ID and me as well. Mine is still in the wife's house, so might as well get a new one. Gotham has reached such a level of lowliness that people without IDs are a common thing, and the police pay no attention to it. The poor, beggars, and the homeless, most of them have no ID. They either lost it or their parents never got them one. The level of degeneracy in this city is truly fabulous. That it's even a miracle. Perhaps the rumors are true, the city is truly cursed. Just as said, the petty thieves have given up on themselves. One might think that cleaning entire grocery stores and selling the products is worthwhile, but it's not. It was a good starting point, and Ian knew when to adapt. He gave the organization to someone else he specifically picked, a beggar he saw to be impulsive, a bit dumb, and ambitious. They were better talents than him, but he was perfect for the dummy's role he prepared for him. It wasn't long before the police raided the place and apprehended everyone. They ignored the leaders yelling of him having been set up. Criminals always say such things. Or perhaps they ignored that because they work for the Falcones. A small part of the stolen jewelry was missing, which they'll surely investigate. Surely. Frank got the news soon after. He had his suspicion, but he thought that even if they lied, he'll just have them killed. However, there was something that baffled him. The bastards really cleaned the place. Never mind then, the petty thief suits them perfectly, isn't that right? Ha 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 hee hee hee, finally. Alfred, did you investigate what I asked for? The area was dark, but one could see a faint dark shadow in a corner. I did. They were caught yesterday, but... The one to answer him was an old man who just entered the area. Light from the entrance made his face apparent. An old man with very little hair. His hair has almost turned completely white. He was wearing a butler uniform, and his form was nearly perfect for someone his age. But what? The circumstances were a bit off. It seemed too easy to me, and it shouldn't be. Robbing a store one time isn't strange, but robbing several on the row without fail, the robbers must know what they're doing. The leader was also caught, and he seems a bit dumb. I couldn't get any more information about him though, Alfred said eloquently and calmly. The dark figure walked out of the shadows while messaging his head. Not much was apparent under his black mask, but he definitely was unhappy, tired, and so many other things. Frustration was apparent on the seeable parts of his face, barely hidden beneath his bat mask, which was complemented by a bat suit. I fought and fought without stop. Yet there was so little impact. Corruption is never ending. Alfred frowned. Are you okay? Do you need rest? Bruce or Batman shook his head. I don't have the luxury to rest. I need to take out the corruption from its very core, and only then can an impact be noticed. Only then will they fear me. He took a deep breath. His determination never wavered. There is a lot of weird things happening in the world as of recently. We have a lot to investigate. The thieves could be a side project, but for now, let's focus on the important matters. Indeed, the crime families are the ones who run the city. They spread terror and corruption. They're a significant source of the terrible stench overwhelming the city. Ian is kind of different. He's more on the cleaner side. He was certainly not that clean in his previous world. He was just a collector, and he treated his collections gently. He remained as such also in this new magical world. Most importantly, he has set his sight on something he wishes to collect, quite the gorgeous thing. Well, old Ralph, it's finally time to get rid of your beard. Wait, what? It was an ordinary day in Gotham. The bright sun shone upon its alleyway. However, there seemed to be a shadow that blocks a significant part of that light from reaching the skin of the living. It was the shadow of corruption, fear, and uncontrollable desires. It's also the curse of depravity, sins, and immorality. Yet even under such dire circumstances, there were plenty of people walking through the city's dark streets. Among those people was a short old man with an ugly-looking fedora on his head. He also had a pair of gloves on and a small shoulder's bag, leather, and classic. His grey beard nearly reached his belly. If the fedora and his glasses were taken from the equation, one can safely say that he's well attired. His destination was right before him, Gotham Bank. Used goods are a common thing in the world, but this bank was used more than every used thing in the world combined. It was robbed, destroyed, screwed by bullets, etc. more than one can count. Poor thing indeed. Greed is quite the powerful desire, achieving horrible and miraculous things day by day. Ralph walked into the bank calmly. He was quite old, and he had experienced, so staying calm wasn't that difficult, especially after staying with the absurd death-seeking Ian for months. It has been 2 weeks since Ian spoke the forbidden words, since he became a heretic by telling Ralph to shave his beard. There weren't many people in the bank as it's Friday and it's near to closing time. He made his way to one of the tellers, a specific one. The chosen teller by Ian himself. The timing was perfect, or perhaps pre-planned. He was calm and collected as he reached the counter and slightly smiled at the teller. He didn't speak but just handed the teller a piece of paper as stealthily as possible without acting strangely. He even acted as he was speaking to the teller but said nothing. He can't let his voice be known. The teller looked at him strangely before starting to read the paper. Nervousness and fear appeared on his face. All the paper had was information and a few instructions. That information is what brought fear to the teller's face. His house's location, his wife and children's names, school and work schedule, and a few more personal pieces of information. Too personal. The group has observed the bank from afar, and they chose him as their target. They followed him and watched from afar. They also did the necessary investigation to get as much information as possible. The teller took a gulp of fear before he was able to calm down just a little. He had started reading the instructions. Calm down. Don't scream. Act naturally. Don't push the alarm, else action will be taken. If I don't leave the bank in a certain time period, action will be taken. If my partners outside notice any suspicious activity, action will be taken, starting with informing my colleagues that are next to your house, and action will be taken. Place all the money in an envelope. No chips. No die packs, else action will be taken. If the police are informed in less than an hour, action will be taken. One of the most important things bank workers learn is to comply with robbers. Trying to be a hero will simply get you killed or fired. However, there is something called silent alarms which tellers and workers can trigger without the robber's knowledge. Thus thieves often find the police already waiting for them outside of the bank without them knowing. There are also die packs, rarely used nowadays but useful. It's a radio-controlled device used by banks to foil bank robberies by causing stolen cash to be permanently marked with die shortly after a robbery. Ian naturally took the precaution of that, which is why he personally wrote the note and made sure to remind the teller of Ralph's partners, imaginary ones. Indeed, there was no one keeping an eye outside, nor was there anyone near the teller's house. Ralph took the envelope and put it in his shoulder bag, then just walked out of the bank, slowly and calmly. Despite having near blind faith in Ian, Ralph still couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief once he saw no cops outside. He then made his way to an alleyway not far away with swiftness. He didn't run but just walked as fast as he could. He walked to the side of a large garbage container, in a well-hidden spot. Everything was already prepared for him as he hid behind the garbage container and picked the things hidden in a black plastic bag. A small container filled with water and a few tools and clothes. Indeed, it's time to get rid of the beard. He started shaving right there and then with swiftness. His goal was to get rid of the beard quickly, thus he naturally didn't do a good job but achieved his purpose nonetheless. He made sure his hair and DNA only falls into the container, which he closed afterward, and changed his clothes, then took off his gloves and put everything in the plastic bag, not leaving anything behind. He even put his shoulder bag in the plastic bag. He then walked out of the alley from the other side with the bag in his hand, as if he has been shopping, and the lucky thing is that the area was safe from cameras, thus his new look wasn't seen. It of course wasn't luck. All of it was planned by the one who believes himself mediocre, not smart, and perhaps he's right. It all didn't need much thinking because he spent most of the time thinking of how to make it more dangerous. Move and you're dead. Not just you but everyone in here. Ian spoke calmly as he stood behind the security guard. It was closing time, and the guards were about to start asking the people still inside to leave, only for one of them to do this. The guard complied, nervous but confused because he was pretty sure everyone knows there are cameras in the museum. The area they were in was isolated and the cameras didn't have a clear view of it, but that didn't matter as it already. Ian added further, I want you to slowly take your handcuffs and put them on your hands. Make sure your hands are behind your back. Understand? The guard complied and did as told. Only then did Ian take the guard's gun and basically everything the guard can later use, especially his keys. The guard was then knocked out, though not before taking a faint look at the robber, a blonde guy with black eyes. Those were the last things he'd later remember and what the cops will use to look for the robbers, because directly after that, Ian took a black mask from his backpack and put it on. It was at that point that someone passed by, and Ian could hear someone else telling him to leave, with the former saying he has to go to the toilet. That person was none other than Mike. He passed by Ian and took the keys handed to him, then continued on his way. Ian naturally took care of the guard who followed. So far so good. No one tried to resist, and not one bullet has left Ian's gun since he took possession of it. They actually have several guns, as every store they robbed had a gun inside. The two remaining guards were soon knocked out as well, by Ian and Barney with no trouble whatsoever. That only happened after they knew the cameras were disabled by Mike, giving them ample freedom. Ian made sure to remind Mike to get the hard disks or the memory cards, as even though they disguised themselves, a lot of people in this world would still be able to find them despite that. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to the jewel of the world, the beauty of nature, the Russifer diamond. Holy Christ, it looks beautiful. Barney couldn't help but mutter to himself, his eyes were shining, transfixed by the gorgeous things before him. Never before had he thought of ever laying his eyes upon such a thing. The diamond was placed within what looks like a glass container, though Ian knows it's anti-bullet glass. It's also surrounded by beautiful red fences. People can only look from afar. Going any further would alert every single authority in the entire city. It's all due to the sensors placed all around it. No matter what you do, they'll sense you. In addition, at night red lasers appear throughout the museum, densely packed. If anything moves or if they touch anything, the same thing would happen. We have about 30 minutes before we can start. You guys tied the guards, right? Also, Barney, did you close the museum and brought the duffel bag? Ian asked after seeing Mike joining them. Yes, I also tied down the one in the control room after knocking him out, Mike explained, and Barney nodded as well. Okay, let's take a small tour of the museum in the meantime, and pick what we'll steal. Remember, we can only take 2 other things aside from the diamond. Also, don't touch or even come close to the glass cases. Ian said and started touring the museum at his leisure, observing each and everything inside. Ancient armaments, different types of stones, remnants of ancient creatures, and so many historical things. However, only 10 minutes passed before Ian received a phone call. Old Ralph, any change in plans? Yeah, the police are on their way to the bank. It seems that the teller has acted earlier than we told him. Ian smiled and hung up the phone. He then called both Barney and Mike in a shared line. Let's start. You did choose what you want, right? Yeah. Yes. Ian brought several handgun magazines from the black duffel bag. Barney and Mike already did the same and took them with them, knowing the plan. The police should be near the bank. Let's give it a minute. They should spread out to protect the bank worker's family. Ian stated, his eyes never left the diamond before him. It was like a collection of shining stars, beautiful and distant. After some time, Ian said, okay, let's start, and may luck shine upon us, and death closes its door on us. I wouldn't mind it if its doors were open though. That'd be a surprise I gladly welcome. The diamond was in a case, and the anti-bullet case was on an exquisite stone platform, not large but tall. The trio instantly spurted into action, with the trio doing the same thing. emptying their gun on the glass case. Ian jumped beyond the fence and came closer to the diamond. He didn't have time to appreciate it, so he directly started shooting it. He knew that just him getting closer has already alerted the police, so emptied his gun as fast as possible. He was close to the glass case but not too close, else the bullets might bounce back to him, and so did the other two. Ian made sure to keep a steady aim and shoot at the same spot. He was fairly experienced in firearms handling. His adventurous life required that, though he tends to not use them. It went like that until he emptied the second magazine and started with the third one. Only then did the glass case break. Jesus Christ, I even started to doubt. The internet is indeed the all-knowing God of the world. Ian walked up to the diamond. His hands were genuinely shaking. He faced death more times than he can count, to the point that he became numb to it, but still find it the most exciting thing ever. However, here he is now feeling the same rush and excitement he feels in the face of imaginary death. The same rush he feels imagining not how he'd die but how he'd not die even in certain death. He gulped and took the gorgeous thing in his hands, not sure whether to hold it tightly as to not slip away or softly as to not break. His mind wasn't working correctly. "Hi. We need to move." It was Mike's scream that woke him up. He didn't notice when they came back. Barney was right next to him, ogling to the diamond, almost drooling. "Right. We should move. Get all the stuff inside the bag. Act according to the plan. Take the valuables and lay low. If I don't come back, then whatever, just move on." They started walking towards the exit as Ian started to calmly talk, not even bothered by what was coming out of his mouth, by the possibilities of what he seeks to do. The two nodded. They have learned to never question his plans, mostly because they don't have better ones. The group is basically just a collection of people who don't actually know what they're doing, but things seem to always work out. Ian took the duffel bag with him as he ran out of the museum, and as he predicted, there were 2 cop cars outside with few officers taking cover behind them. His plans, however, worked because most of the cops were on the other side of the city, busy with the bank robbery. Even if they decided to come here, it'd take them quite a while to arrive. The second part of the plan was different, and any sane person would consider it stupid because it makes no sense. It can only work with someone like him. Someone who can leisurely run out of the museum and head to an alleyway under the rain of bullets without anyone even coming close to hitting him. The police ran after him and continued to rain bullets at him as he drove away on a motorcycle, one they stole only recently. The cops were somewhat speechless, seriously unsure of what just happened. They did, however, get their wits back, went back to their cars, and tried to follow him. Unfortunately, they couldn't as he drove at max speed without stop and without care for traffic. He didn't even slow down. A crash at such speed would almost certainly lead to death. It was all a confusing mess and a chance Mike and Barney used to disappear like they were never there. They ran through the dark alleyways of Gotham, ready to change their clothes and truly disappear. However, a cat has set her eyes on them. Well, she had set her eyes on the valuables inside the museum, so imagine her surprise when she was close by and heard the loud alarm of the museum and the gunshot sound. She stalked her prey, deemed who possesses what's hers, and jumped right in. Both Barney and Mike had literally no experience in combat, thus why they didn't even understand what got them. How sweet, getting what I want. Without having to do anything. What was their plan anyway, and how did it even work? Cops nowadays are. She froze. She searched them again and again, yet found nothing. Where is it? A slap instantly woke Barney up. Well, barely. WTF. Where is my food? Damn it, Mike. Shut up. The cat known as Selena was truly losing it now as she slapped him again, and only then did he pay attention to her. He was still a bit dizzy and couldn't see things clearly, but he can notice her full black outfit and cat ears. A cat, Right, just a harmless cat. Now why don't you tell me where the diamond is? She said as softly as possible. The diamond? Didn't the boss take it? Barney was starting to wake up just as she asked further, and who is your boss? Oh, he is the guy we work for, kinda. Mike says he's insane, but I beg to differ. Wait. Who are you? Barney couldn't help but take a long gulp. Selena's face was twitching as she barely held her temper. Right, you can sleep now. That's the last thing Barney remembered before blacking out again. I didn't tell the cat much, did I? Here he was inside a strange place, a nostalgic place. Well, actually not at all, they have the place. With him was Mike and their savior Ralph. Directly after robbing the bank and stashing everything, Ralph made his way towards the museum to pick up the two. He did indeed do that, their passed out bodies that is. Thankfully, he was there on time. In fact, he was there quite early. He called Ian directly after that, and the latter simply told him, change your clothes to a beggar's and stay in the warehouse for now, fit in with the homeless ones in there. Ralph understood right away and complied. The possibility of the cat following them is there, so they couldn't possibly return to the base or meet with Ian. Ian was also busy as he himself emptied their base of operation. Now that sounds like some advanced shit, but in reality, it's just the apartment they rented. He also changed to his natural looks. He took out the blonde wig and the black contact lenses. His natural black hair and brown eyes were his favorites after all, and he wouldn't change his looks for anything. And now he is in a shared line with the other three. Let me think for a bit. My brain is quite slow, so I need to think a lot in intense situations. Also, refer to me as anything but my name. And he indeed took his time to the point that Barney couldn't hold his curiosity back and asked, how did you know that she would appear? Ian did after all pretend to give them the valuables when he was planning to keep them with him from the start. Moreover, he took everything from them in a somewhat hidden location, not seeable from the glass windows of the museum. Well, I was actually more afraid of the bat catching. I never saw a cat coming at all. I'm also extremely resistant to death, so I was planning on taking the valuables with me anyway. Resistant to death? I mean, you kinda are. Wait. You definitely are. Barney seemed to agree while Mike begged otherwise. Nah, I think it's just luck. It's like the world simps for you. I noticed it way back, but am even more sure now. We will lie low for like a week. I actually don't know what to do. I mean, the last thing I thought would happen is having a damn cat on my back. It's like common sense is losing it. Also, I honestly feel like I can't think currently. This piece of diamond definitely has some magic spell that muddles the mind. I can't take my eyes off it. I will contact you when my brain starts working again, and don't forget to destroy your SIM cards and use the ones already prepared. I will contact you through them the next time. There was a bit of silence for a while before Mike wondered only in his mind, what if he leaves with the diamond? I probably would if I were in his place. No, I shouldn't think like th. He was interrupted by the crying sound of his best friend, Barney. What's going on? Are you okay? I'm not. I want to see it so much, and I want to hold it forever. It was so close, yet that crazy cat. Mike took a quick gulp. He has never seen his friend be so emotional. Moreover, his expression was kind of scary. He knew that Barney was petty, but it seemed to have reached new heights. Calm down, and have some trust in him. He will figure something out. Ralph calmly stated as he took a long smoke. That's something he got into recently. You aren't worried at all? Mike wondered, truly curious. Ralph eyed him before shaking his head. I know what's in your mind, but not really. I'm a bit different from you too. I'm old and I just want to live life. What we have been doing. It made me feel alive. Of course, someone would be afraid of what Ian would do. Greed is one of the Gospels in the Gothamlical Bible, something they're used to, so they wouldn't find it strange if he decided to keep everything to himself. They were patient, and so was Ian. However, only a few days passed before something strange happened. Once Ralph woke up, he found a small piece of paper next to him. "I'd like to meet your boss. Tell him to contact me here if he agrees." Written next to that was a phone number, and Ralph instantly understood what was going on. He called Ian right there and then and let him know. Let me think. I have a better idea. I used this time to get myself an ID, and I rented a place. Get a pen and write on the paper he'll meet you on the east side of the city, next to the Monarch Theatre at 10 p.m. tomorrow. I will send you a message with the location of the apartment only when I meet her. Then you can head there. Also, send me the number just in case. Ralph finally let a sigh of relief. He had started getting used to sleeping on a large comfy bed and eating delicious things, so it was a bit difficult fitting in here. It wasn't long before the night came, and the three slept, the same as everyone else in the warehouse. Only then did the visitor come. Someone walked into the warehouse, through the sleeping beggars, silently and slowly as it's her house. The woman was wearing a black latex full-body suit tightly fit around her seductive body, a hood with cat ears mounted on top. She silently picked up the piece of paper and took a glance at it before making her way out of the warehouse, in full understanding of his thought process. I really hate dealing with troublesome people. However, I will get the diamond one way or another, and how troublesome can one man really be? Ian stayed true to his word and indeed waited for her in an alleyway near the theatre. Cats have strong senses, so he knew she'd eventually find him. He just waited while eating a taco in his hand, unaware that she had already arrived. She was just observing him from the shadows, taking his picture from afar. She didn't keep him waiting for long as she walked from the darkness of the alleyways towards with slow seductive steps, already working on seducing him. Well, a sadist or a masochist? Or is your work being a dominatrix or something? What? Oh? You're not? Well, never mind then. Ian just shrugged his shoulders. Selina let out a sigh and continued walking towards him, then started circling around him. Ian remained as defenseless as usual, even as she softly hugged him from behind and whispered in his ears, "I'm not, but I can be if you're into that. I can be very rough." Ian raised his eyebrows and let out a chuckle that actually sounds nice. "I'm into masochists and I don't mind you staying in your dominatrix outfit for that. In fact, I'd love that." The smile on Selina's face disappeared as she started keeping a bit of distance from him. "Troublesome, you don't have it on you. I didn't think you would, but I had hoped so." She then lifted her hand with his phone in it. She opened, noticing it's locked. Yeah, who leaves their phone without a password nowadays? And I bet nothing is in it anyway. She then threw it back to Ian, who caught it and entered the password right away. He then sent a message to his pals. "I admit I'm impressed. I didn't feel a thing. I have to wonder though, did you leave someone else to keep an eye on my friends? It doesn't really matter, I'm just curious. I didn't think it'd matter anyway, so I didn't bother." Selina let out a sigh and just eyed him from top to bottom. "You don't look too special. Handsome, but careless. Fit but defenseless, so how did you do it? I'm curious. Is this why you wanted to talk to me? Well, I'm indeed careless, weak, and not even smart. I also wonder how I do the things I do, but I never got an answer." Selina let out a chuckle, thoroughly amused. "Not smart? Right. Anyway, I have a target and I'd like your assistance. We'll of course split the harvest. What do you think?" Ian stared at her strangely and started using his brain to the best of his ability. I think you want to seduce me to give you the thing or steal it from me. Cats are quite naughty after all. Selina seductively smiled and came close to him. Well, why don't you find out if I can? Wouldn't I deserve it if I'm able to do that? You have a point. I also feel like you'd beat me up to get information from me if I refuse. I only know little boxing after all. Ian casually responded while still thinking about something else entirely. No way, cats are harmless. I wouldn't do that. I'm so weak-minded in that regard that she might actually succeed. However, if I take the risk I can get some valuable information. According to what I know about her, she has a lot of connections, trusted connections in contrast to Frank. So what do you think? She said with her hands encircling Ian's neck in a quite intimate position. Perhaps dealy is a better word for her intentions. I've thought this through. Let's do your job together, then I'll give you some valuables we have to sell. You seem way more experienced than me, thus you probably have more connections. I will set the price for the things I want to sell. If you can sell them for a higher price, you can keep that extra. I will give a reasonable price, so you should make ample profit. Of course, there is the option of you keeping everything to yourself. I don't really mind, but just know I won't be selling the diamond. Selina retracted her hands with a strange look on her face. That was easier than I thought, and you're certainly a strange one. I want to see how you work, so I'll tell you my target and you plan the heist. Oh, you think I can actually plan heists? All the ones I pulled were from books and movies. I just made them worse, and that's how my planning usually goes. Ian was even amused by how his brain works while saying that. Selina was a bit speechless. The meeting wasn't going as expected at all. However, this was a chance she can't miss. Even if I can't get the diamond, I can use him to accumulate cash. There is definitely something weird about him, I can smell it. He does smell nice though. Her cat senses drove her to doze off for a bit. He had to wake her up. Tell me about the job. Ah, right. The job is something I can do alone quite easily, but the problem is after the job. The bat always finds me and takes back what I stole. Rarely do I succeed. My target is painting in a mansion on the south side of the city. I'll tell you all I know about it, and you formulate a plan to avoid the bat's pursuit. By the way, you three were lucky since you didn't encounter him. Ian shook his head. It's not luck. He was probably looking into the other robbery and just didn't have enough time to arrive before we left. Ian then narrowed his eyes as he looked at her. You say he almost always catch you, yet you're still here. Care to explain? Oops, it slipped right past my lips, but you have nothing to worry about. We have a complicated relationship, but we're certainly not allies. Selina hid her mouth while letting out a small laugh. Hopefully I don't end up in prison. Arkham Asylum sounds like a more interesting place, so I don't mind going there. Anyway, I think it's time for us to introduce ourselves. I'm Carmela, just Carmela. Selina sweetly said. Oh? Probably not your real name, but I will be kind and tell you mine. Zeus, nice to meet you. He said with a yawn, already getting bored and sleepy. Ian gave her a single glance before adding, I will send you a message, then you can send me the info about the job. I will contact you when I have a plan in mind. Also, I already hid it somewhere far away, so don't bother following me. He then made his way to the apartment where his dear friends were excitedly waiting for him. Something he expected is the cat following him. They're quite naughty after all. Ian hugged the three before he opened the door to them. They entered the apartment, and before he could say anything, Barney excitedly said, See, can I see it? Ian shook his head. Unfortunately, it's not here. I hid it somewhere else because I was sure the cat would follow me here, so hold it in, Barney, and be patient. You can do it. I believe. Barney took a deep breath before running to the side. He then started to cry like a child despite being a middle-aged man. Ralph, I have some new plans. You're more experienced than me in this regard, so I want you to go to the warehouse and recruit some trusted people there. Doesn't matter who they are or how they look, I just want loyalty and talents. Ian took off his coat, then took a seat on the couch and continued, We've made $42.50 from the bank, and we'll try the same thing on different banks every week. We'll use part of that money to continue to rent our previous apartment. Let them stay in it. If they don't have an ID, contact Frank's connection to make them one. That's how Ian's ID was made. Frank introduced them to the one who does such a thing, and they started contacting him directly. Act quickly because we don't have much time. Also, hand me one. Ian spoke calmly as Ralph handed him a cigarette. The latter lit it up for him before saying, We don't have time for what? Ian took a rare smoke as he closed his eyes. It's better if you don't know. I feel like my adventures have been too safe recently. I need to add a little spice to my life. Anyway, don't mind my nonsense. I'm quite tired, so I'll have some sleep now. See that? Ralph was speechless for a minute before he just shook his head. That indeed sounds like something I don't want to know. Why don't you just tell me your plan? I will feel more confident that way. Selena softly said to Ian through the phone. Just be patient, you have nothing to lose either way. When I send you a message, do what you do best. Ian responded with a simple answer before hanging up. He then continued to make his way to the meeting. He had black gloves on and even plastic ones beneath them. He had a black suit shirt and pants, looking formal. He had a small black bag in his hands, and he was unnaturally calm as he thought to himself. It should be easy. I will have to do it sometime in the future anyway. This world requires such a thing. He had almost reached his destination when a strange feeling started to surface throughout his mind and body. I'm nervous? Well, that's a welcomed feeling. It's been such a long time. I wonder though, how would I feel when I do it? His destination was a certain nightclub, to be specific the alleyway behind it. It's a back door to the club whose ownership belongs to Frank himself. His steps were calculated as he only walked through alleyways and streets that don't have any cameras. If they do, he made sure to avoid them. He found 2 guards standing in front of the back door. He walked up to them, and they directly allowed him in. What surprised him wasn't that though, since one of the guards is someone he had met before in the first meeting, so he must have recognized him. What truly surprised him is them not searching him and taking any firearms or dangerous things he has. Either Frank is that careless or he looks down on him to that degree. Well, that doesn't matter. I should act quickly. I wonder though, is this above what my ability can handle? Will I die here? Who am I kidding? I survived worse situations, though none of them involved guns. Ian walked into that same hall he was in not long ago. It seemed fancier to him with plenty more decorations and artwork. Frank himself looked more well-dressed and perhaps happier. Moreover, there were plenty of his henchmen in the hall, nearly 12 of them all with guns out. My nameless friend. Welcome back. Your boss said you have a business, so let's get right to it. He seemed quite excited about whatever Ian had to say. Ian smiled and placed the briefcase on the table. We did something recently, but well, we don't have the connection to sell it as you didn't give us one. Frank let out a small laugh. What are you talking about? I'm your connection. That's not a problem, is it? I will of course take a cut, and my other connection will also take a cut, but this is how things work. Frank narrowed his eyes and added, however, I'd very much like to know what you stole and who you stole it from. It couldn't possibly be what I'm thinking of, could it? I heard about that, but we aren't at that level yet. Anyway, why don't you see for yourself? Ian said as he started opening the briefcase. He put the code and showed them what was within. Take a look at this one first, and tell me how much it's worth, Ian said as he brought one of the two black cases in the briefcase and handed it to him. Frank eyed the other black case before he focused on the one in his hands. He opened it, and instantly, a smirk surfaced on his face. Quite the fancy thing. I don't really know much about things such as these, but I'm pretty sure this is extremely valuable. Things such as these aren't usually found in jewelry stores, but I swear I remember seeing something similar in a museum. Frank stood up with the necklace in his hand. It was gorgeous with an even more captivating amethyst inside, perfectly shaped. This is exactly what I need. I didn't think this would happen so soon, but sorry, it's what it is. Now tell me, where is the diamond? He didn't seem to be able to hold his emotions back as excitement was apparent on his face. A gun was in his hand which he aimed at Ian. Ian shook his head with a chuckle. My boss thought something like this might happen, so he sent me with this hoping you would change your mind. If not, then it doesn't matter, I am expendable anyway. As he said that, Ian casually reached out to the other black case and opened it. Within were two objects. A velvet jewelry box and a gun. The box was quite exquisite. It was the one he took from the museum. The diamond was inside of it, comfortably sitting in it while it's open for the world to see. He, of course, didn't forget to take it. Frank wasn't even bothered by the gun in the case, though his underlings were already aiming their gun at Ian. Any wrong move and he's dead. Frank gulped as he reached out to the small box. Is it inside? He didn't wait for an answer as he opened it directly after that. It was empty. What's the meaning of this? Do you think I'm a joke just like the rest? Ian slowly took the gun into his hand and stood up, not in a hurry. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, ignoring all the extremely loud sounds around him. He opened his eyes to the weirdest scene he had ever seen so far. Nothing even came close, and only then did his brain start to comprehend all the sounds that started occurring the moment he picked up the gun. The moment he picked up the gun, almost everyone in the hall opened fire at him without a second thought, yet not a bullet touched him. From handguns to rifles, bullets were flying everywhere, and the stunned Frank finally started to get his wits back. Only then did he start to notice the anomaly of the situation, the elephant in the room. Ian was right before him, intact with his eyes closed, yet his men were falling one by the bullets of their own people. Their bullets somehow reached everywhere in the hall but him. Stop! Frank whimpered with a voice barely heard by his own ears. His hands were shaking as he aimed at Ian, ready to shoot. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to pull the trigger as he found his brain almost entirely destroyed by the massive chandelier that fell on him. His body fell on the ground. His fingers still moved for a second or two before life left his dead body. Ian opened his eyes and strangely looked at his surroundings, dead bodies everywhere, blood flowing like a river. Only one other person was alive in the hall, one of Frank's henchmen. He was shaking while looking at Ian as if looking at a monster. Seeing Ian's brown eyes looking at him brought even more fear into him as he screamed, "Stop! Don't come close!" He tried to aim and shoot at Ian again. His brain didn't seem to be working correctly as he stumbled backward with his head colliding with a sharp part of the ground. He was no more. Huh? Okay. Ian was baffled. He had never faced a situation like this in the literal sense. Even in his previous world, nothing this extreme ever happened, which might be due to a situation like this never happening. He did take gun lessons but never actually used them against a human being. He did use them when hunting, and some strange situations did occur, but this... However, like every other time, he had the same reaction, well, whatever. He then picked up the necklace and the two black cases, though he left the diamond's box in its place fallen next to Frank. He picked up his briefcase and left, and only then did he send a message to Ralph, a simple one to start. He then called the cat, and before he could talk, she spoke first. "Oh, Zeus. Tell me the good news." Ian's face couldn't help but twitch. He told her his name was Zeus as an obvious joke, but when she called him like that, it sounded a bit, "Don't call me that." "Why not? You said it's your name, don't tell me it isn't." He could detect from her tone just how much fun she was having messing with him. He shook his head, knowing it's not time for messing around. "Ian, my name is Ian Rose, and as I said, start. I will be there soon." What a lovely name, and don't worry, I have already started, but we can talk while I perform my dance. I'd like to know more about you, you don't mind, do you? Her tone was full of interest and curiosity. "Oh? You didn't investigate me?" Ian wondered. "Of course I did, but I only had your pictures, and I found nothing about you. I guess now that I have your name, I will surely know more, right?" She saw no point in hiding that, as she was sure it's something anyone can expect. However, she wasn't sure if Ian was actually his real name. "Ian is my real name. Also, you weren't able to get info with my pictures because I just forged a new identity just recently. I was a beggar, so I never actually had an ID." He casually explained without trying too hard to think of a better lie. "I almost want to believe you. Well, I actually don't." She then hung up. Ian shook his head again. "I can see a great future working with her. I know she can do some insane gymnastics shit to reach places I can't. I can plan things and act as a meat shield that never dies. Just imagining the crazy things we can steal excites me so much, but I don't think her vision is the same as mine." He took a deep breath and thought about the real problem. "I thought I'd have to kill today, but this doesn't count as killing, does it? I have no control over my power after all. Yep, it's definitely not my doing but my powers." He threw all the responsibilities to his non-sentient power and moved on with his life. He needed to send a message to someone with us though, so he did that right away after changing his SIM card. He then destroyed it and threw it in the garbage. The police sirens were ear-blowing, sounding throughout the street and its surroundings. Many police cars were parked everywhere as the city has witnessed a not-so-rare massacre. "Why? That's unnecessary as I'm already here." "Well, why take the trouble? I already took the case." "Listen, we'll talk about this later." Gordon then hung up. Frustration was apparent on his face. He was in the middle of a horrifying case, yet his colleague wants him to leave and let him take the rest. That made no sense to him. He didn't have time to really think about that. He was ready to go back and examine the scene, but he noticed an anonymous message has been sent to him. That's already strange enough to attract his attention. "Your competitor is corrupt. He works for the Falcons. There is proof inside." He found himself frozen in his place. Comprehension slowly started to surface on his face. He still didn't trust the message, but there is an easy way to verify it. He started a thorough search of the nightclub, specifically the main office, and all the rooms to the side of the hall. He found several documents of Frank's illegal deals, but he still found nothing of significance, though he still needs to take a close look at the evidence. That only leaves one thing: Frank's phone. Gordon went to the hall and searched for Frank's body. He already had gloves on, so he just moved the chandelier from on top of his body and searched him. He kept hesitating for a minute, but in the end, he still took the phone with as much discretion as possible and put it in his pocket. He knows it must have a password, and he can't leave it to the PD to decrypt it, because if what the message said was true, the valuable info in it will be gone. He will let the only person he knows that's smart enough to be able to get the job done, and also the person he can fully trust, his daughter Barbara Gordon. He then made his way to one of his fellow officers. "What did you learn?" It's messy and confusing." Their leader seemed to have died due to the chandelier, and another one died due to falling down. The rest died due to bullets, but there are bullets everywhere, so we're not really sure what happened or who the killers are of the bodies here. The officer responded. Gordon frowned. I want to say it involves some kind of gang shout-out or fighting between crime families, but I guess we won't be sure until further inspection. Ian was of course innocent. He had done nothing wrong, and he kept convincing himself by the fact he hadn't pulled the trigger of his gun yet. Perhaps he is insane because he had yet to feel even a sliver of guilt towards his actions. The reason was his ability. He had experienced so many things that made his emotions numb, and his thought process bizarre. How did you do it? Or what did you do to get the bat off me? Selina was curious. She did trigger the alarms the moment she took the painting, and she knew that had happened. She also had no way around that, as that wasn't her specialty, and she would have never felt the need to avoid that if not for Batman. Ian looked fresh with different clothes and no briefcase in his hands. He had to change his clothes as they had a bit of scattered blood on them. Their meeting place was actually the roof of his apartment complex under the darkness of the night. Ian brought 2 chairs with him. He took a seat on one and signaled for her to do the same. It doesn't really matter, does it? May I see it? He was talking about the painting in her hands. It had a black piece of cloth on it, stopping him from seeing the value of it. Sure, Selina handed it to him. She was even more curious about what he had done. She reached out for her pocket, pulling out her phone after feeling it vibrate. A smile surfaced on her face afterward. Ian took a close look at the painting. He seemed to be contemplating something for a while before he confessed, "Yeah, I absolutely have no idea what this is, but I will take a picture to search later." And he indeed did so. He never really had much desire to collect paintings. He's more into shiny, cool stuff. What? Ian questioned, noticing her giving him a strange look. Is your name really Ian? Ian Rose? I've investigated the name, but there's no one by that fits your description. It's my real name, but my identity name is different. You know how forged identities work. I can't order any name. The names come with the package. I am also not willing to go to some kind of government office to change it. Ian stood up after that. He handed her the painting. He then brought a few stuff from his pockets, namely a necklace and a few other jewelry pieces. Since we've just finished our first job, I'll trust you with these. I'll send you in a message the expected value of each of them, and well, talk to your connection. To say Selina was surprised would be an understatement. So soon. She took them, and before he knew it, her arms were already around Ian's neck as she said that. Her lips were almost touching his. Could it be that you fell for me so soon? Ian didn't answer but simply closed the distance further, their lips coming in contact with each other. He stole a quick kiss, feeling her red tender lips before she jumped backward. What was that? Ian was kind of surprised. Oh, why the stutters? I thought seduction is your forte. Selina frowned. She ignored him and started jumping from building to building, like a cat escaping a dog's clutches. Ian took a deep breath, then left with a last thought. I almost lost. She's too good. But what was that? Why did she escape? Could it be because of that? Well, whatever. What have we got here? Boys, we've made it. Ian said with a smile. Excitement was apparent on his pale face. He reciprocated the high five he got from Barney as the latter shouted, "Hell yeah, we did." Everyone in the apartment was happy, excited even. Barney was jumping everywhere like a kid, which seemed to light the fire of youth in Mike as he followed suit. Ralph, on the other hand, was just smiling and smoking the most expensive cigarettes he found in the store. In the middle of the apartment was a small duffel bag that seemed to be filled with something. Ian walked to it and opened it, finding it almost completely filled with hard raw cash. How much is it? Ralph took another smoke and answered, 137k and some jewelry. There are also some other things that seemed valuable. Not as much as I thought, but I guess he isn't that high in the Falcone family, and most of his funds should be in the mob banks. Ian thought for a bit before adding, give each of the recruits 1k, but let them know of what to do and what not to do. The message sent to Ralph after Ian left the scene was to let him know of the start of the true goal of his actions. He needed a lot of funds to start going into the legal stuff. Ralph led the 5 recruits into the messy hall. They scattered and scavenged everything they can before hastily leaving. Mike and Barney kept an eye on the cops, on the Gotham police station to be specific, and warned Ralph of when to leave. The recruit was of course from the warehouse of homeless people. Ralph picked people he already knew long, and he did so carefully. I already told them the rules, and I think they will comply with them perfectly after witnessing what was inside. What happened in there? Did you do that? Ralph was a bit nervous while asking that. He wasn't sure whether that's a question he should ask, but the mess inside was beyond his imagination, so curiosity got the best of him. What happened? Something I should know about. Barney jumped to them out of nowhere and questioned with curiosity. I'm actually not sure myself. It's kind of complicated, but it's the doing of something else. I had a different plan in mind, but things worked out in the end. Ian lit up a cigarette of his own and started smoking with them. It's after all an event worth celebrating. We'll lay low for a while. I made a deal with the cat and we'll be working with her for a while. She's still not trustworthy though, so be warned if she approached alone. Wait, what? She stopped from living with my dear. It's her fault. Why should we work with her? Barney instantly got worked up at the sound of the cat. Your dear. Ian wondered, confused. Wait? You wouldn't be talking about the diamond, would you? The diamond? No way, he isn't that insane, right? Mike tried to come to a logical conclusion, but seeing Barney nodding made him speechless. The hell are you smoking? She's mine. You took the emerald necklace, and that's enough for you. On a serious note, I handed the cat the amethyst necklace and the other jewelry to sell. She has trusted connections, and she's good at what she does. Ian changed the subject, and he wasn't done just yet. It's time for us to start legal businesses. Every mob has and that's for a good reason. They're a good front. A nightclub? It seems like a lot of mobs own those. Ralph made a logical assumption. Ian shook his head as he crossed his legs together, sitting more comfortably. Nah, I've thought it through long ago and did some research. I want to start a coffee shop business. Barney scratched his head in confusion. Does that sound like a small goal only to me? I mean, we can do better, right? If we wait for the cat to bring us our profit, we'll have more money to do better things. However, that may not necessarily be the correct decision. A nightclub sounds like unnecessary trouble. The mobs will probably target us as it will be under no one's protection. This is just one of the many troubles we might face. Ian started stroking his chin and added, a coffee shop, a safe and simple place to manage. In Gotham, the city of crime, a peaceful place like that can have extremely high attraction if we can provide that safety. Ian lifted his index finger with a mysterious smile. I'm not done just yet. I already have a place in mind, a store that just shut down recently. It's near Frank's nightclub, and with the things that happened there, its price is bound to go down. Moreover, the area there is already known for its high crime rate, so its price was already low. I'm sold. Wait, you're not done. I am not. The place for sale is not just the store but the entire 2 floors buildings. If we revamp it, we can make ourselves a franchised sit-down coffee shop, and we can live on the 2nd floor. There is plenty of room for even more peep. Say less. I'm sold. I don't exactly understand everything you said, but I'm 100% sold. When are we moving in? Ian strangely eyed Barney. He seemed to be losing it. Ian, however, can't say his mental stat is in a better shape, so he ignored that. Ralph failed to hide the excitement on his beardless face as he asked, "I'm sold, but how much money are we spending?" "Like, we can't already have the money for that, could we?" "We don't. The last time I searched for the price, it was worth about 250k, but we can negotiate, especially with the recent incident. I'm sure the owner is also wanting to get rid of the place." Ian stood up afterward. "All right, boys, we have a lot of honest work to do. Ralph, the property will be in your name as you have a legal ID, and you're the least sued person of us. For now, however, let me get some sleep." The world continued to orbit around itself as usual, and the gears of time continued to move as the night was where bats move the most. "He's back! Ras Al Ghul. Just what is his goal this time?" A man attired in a black bat suit spoke with a raspy voice. Only his face was apparent. He seemed healthy, which is strange considering what he does. He seemed to be in some kind of cave with all kinds of complicated technological stuff, and he was standing next to a metallic desk with numerous pieces of paper on it and a large computer screen. And this, it's definitely something supernatural. Is it also his doing? It's a massacre that doesn't make much sense. It also took account for my interference. The place was clean of people when I arrived, not just of the killers but also of anything of value. The massacre must have happened in a matter of minutes for them to have time to clean the place. It's either Ras Al Ghul or someone just as dangerous. He was looking at the info of the incident that Ian definitely wasn't responsible for. He then looked at the info of another incident, feeling his headache. "And is this your doing, Selena? Is it just timing or is it planned?" He took a deep breath before saying, "Whatever it is, I need to hasten my plans against the crime families. For that, I might need help." He then laid his eyes upon the picture of someone attired in a cop suit, James Gordon. It was not just the bat that stayed up all night, the cat also did. Her real name was Selena Kyle and she lives on the east side of Gotham. When she doesn't have her suit on, she's just a beautiful woman who had grown up in the unkindness of Gotham, a hard life that led her to her current path. She found herself unable to sleep, just lying on her bed with barely any clothes on, showing her sensual body. Her hand was on her lips as she thought to herself, "It felt so nice. Too nice, and I've just met him. Did he do something to me? Some kind of drug? There is definitely something strange about him." Selena looked at her phone for a moment. Nervousness was apparent on her face. The incident. Was it his doing? Was I on the brink of death this whole time while I was with him? Even he had yet to understand how his power works. He knows that it can do more than meets the eye, but the extent is unknown even to him. Sometimes, his power even reacts to things around him in ways he simply can't comprehend, just like how it reacted when he came in contact with her. But well, he has all the time in the world to find out how it works. I envy you. You've come so far from when we first met, and things seem to always work out for you," Selena softly said. She was seated on the roof of a building, a nice-looking two-story building. An exquisite sign was at its front spelling Cat's Rest. That was the name of Ian and the group's coffee, and in contrast to what one might assume, the group came up with the name just to make Barney mad. Mike was especially hell-bent on picking that name. Ian was seated next to her, carefully examining a dark red ring in his hands. It seemed to be made fully of some kind of gem, a ruby, right? There are also some nice engravings within. I guess it's worth its price. That was their newest harvest. It has been 2 months since their first job, and they have pretty much been doing a job every week. Ian was mostly responsible for planning the heists with the information provided by Selena, while she was responsible for the execution. He also acts when needed or if things got out of hand. Annoyance was apparent on what was visible on Selena's face. He always seems to ignore her in situations like this. To be fair, he was paying full attention to the antique in his hand. "I don't like it very much," you can sell it. This has been an ongoing ritual for him, deciding whether to keep the harvest and pay Selina her cut or let her sell it. It all depends on if it's worth joining his collection. As for what said, you should envy me because I somehow have better decision-making skills than you. How do you lose all your money every time? You must be cursed. And he finally responded to what she said. Selina's not real cat ears started to twitch in annoyance. What? It's not my fault, I'm just unlucky. Something unfortunate always happens whenever I become even a bit well off. Ian stared at her strangely for a second before responding in the calmest way possible. Right, it's surely not your fault. Sarcasm. Like, can you stop and give me some advice here? Please? Selina was a bit desperate at this point, and she wouldn't have been if she didn't see the uninterrupted success of Ian. She was used to everything not working out for her during her entire life, and she got used to it, but Ian seemed to have unintentionally awoken her from her terrible decision-making. Ian moved his face closer to hers, looking into her gorgeous green eyes. Your eyes are beautiful. Now that I think about it, I never got to see the face beneath the mask. Selina instantly moved her face backward. Ian could almost swear he saw what's apparent of her cheeks becoming flushed for a second. Please stop, I'd like to keep my identity a secret. Ian frowned and stared at her for a while. His mind was overloading as he thought of what she was planning. As I thought, you're acting weird. You've been acting weird for a while now. What are you planning? Weird how? Selina asked. Even she was unsure, which made him look with an even stranger look. You've been keeping distance from me, and well, you've been quite timid, nothing like the bold and cool Catwoman I first met. Is this like your new plan to seduce me? Selina frowned and contemplated his words for a while. You're right. I haven't been myself recently. She let out a small laugh at herself. I guess I'm having middle-age crisis. Ian picked up his cup of coffee. He almost forgot he brought it with him. He took a small sip before putting it back down. I forgot about it again until it got cold. I will definitely remember next time. He stood up, then turned around and faced her. His face was serious. First, tell me your real name. It's about time, right? She didn't hesitate much. He had put so much trust in her for the past 2 months that she started feeling bad for not telling him. Selina. Selina Kyle. A smile surfaced on Ian's handsome face. What a lovely name. It suits you. You told me your name, so why is it a problem to let me see your face? He asked with curiosity. Selina was silent for a few seconds before she shook her head. It's complicated, I'd rather not say. Okay. Ian was a bit confused, so he went with the whatever rule and moved on. Stand up and face me. Now I want you to seduce to give you the diamond. Do your thing, let the cat out. Selina was also confused. Why? I will be okay. I just have to think for a bit, and everything will be fine. Ian let out a sigh before he approached her, stroked her forehead, seemingly scolding her as if she's still a kid. That's called escaping the problem. I want you to be you and let the cat out right now, right here. Only then will I tell you how to succeed and stop making terrible decisions. Also, I will encourage you further. The last time you tried to seduce me, you almost succeeded. I'm that weak, or you're that good. Selina held her forehead and just stared at the smiling Ian, who was waiting for her. She was seemingly stunned for a good 10 seconds before she got her bearing back. Then don't blame me, she said that, but she was still a bit nervous as she approached him. She had already realized that the nervousness isn't like her at all. She started by stalling for a bit as she circled around him, trying to get her confidence back. I've never felt nervous when I was working with Batman, so why am I now? Am I just afraid of getting close to him? She approached him from behind and hugged him while whispering in his ears. Are you perhaps just using this as a cover, but in reality, you miss my touch? Ian felt a hot breath tickling his ears, and felt the 2 gorgeous balls of softness on his back. he took a deep breath. Holy hell, man, you're not a virgin. Calm yourself down, but damn if she isn't special. Selena clearly felt her effect on him as she got bolder, even more encouraged. A mischievous smile surfaced on her face as the naughtiness in her spurted out. Her lips found themselves sucking on his neck, finding enjoyment in that. Okay? I know I said I'm weak, but I'm actually losing. Well, whatever, Ian just let things take their course, and just enjoyed the moment. He's the kind of guy that if the world was gonna end tomorrow, and he has the key to save it, he'll just ignore it until the last few seconds, or he'll just forget about it. Selena circled around him and stood before him, green eyes staring at his pale brown eyes. Now I'm starting to wonder why I found you so difficult in the first place. She placed one of her arms around his neck, and she started caressing his cheek with the other hand. She spoke softly to his ears. Now imagine what would happen if we go further. The question is, how badly do you want that? She gently caressed the side of his lips, and before he can say anything, she licked his cheek, too close to his lips, but she never reached them. Just who can survive such temptation? Okay? That escalated quickly. Ian wanted to believe that he can hold himself back. Sadly he couldn't as he said, that was kinky, but I like it. Perhaps you forgot yourself in the process, but I'm too weak to hold back. His left arm was already around her waist and the other was on her neck as he pulled her face closer to his and went for the kiss. However, this time it was a long sensual kiss, and Selena didn't resist not one bit. She allowed him to take control. Their tongues were in a battle not for domination but simply for pleasure and intimacy. A good minute or two passed before they stopped as Ian said with a smile, I guess I lost though I don't mind it. Welcome back. Selena took a deep breath and a step back with that. She looked at him for a few seconds and softly said, glad to be back. Also, please don't misunderstand, I'm not interested in a relationship at all. Ian nodded, not surprised by that. Yeah, I figured out that much. My goal was just to build a friendship with, but what can I say? You're too good to the point I ended up taking it one step further. However, I believe you should have more trust in me now, and I also feel like I can trust you a bit more. Now I can talk to you about a few of my plans, or our plans. He then extended his hand, waiting for her to take it, which she did. A handshake of pure innocent friendship. Right. She then started walking away, leaving him with a few words. Since I won, you'll have to tell me of your secrets. I also want to keep my hard-earned money in my pockets, but let's leave that for tomorrow. She then started jumping from building to building like a cat, swift and silent. Her movement was almost inhuman, yet she didn't move far before she found herself lying on the roof of another building, seemingly exhausted. Her cheeks, no, her entire face was flushed. Her breathing was heavy. What are you doing to me? I am the one who lost? Ian walked down the stairs from the roof. He went to the building's first floor, the coffee shop. It was late at night at this point, so the workers were already preparing to close it. He found the trio of his group already waiting for him around a table. He took a seat with them and asked, any trouble today? Ralph shook his head as he signaled for one of the workers to bring them coffee. No, as you predicted. The Falcone family has given up on the area, and very few other crime families try to get here. At this point, it seems they're more scared of us than of Batman. Well, that's the result of having thousands of beggars under your hand. Ian couldn't help but let out a chuckle. He was sure Batman has already started investigating his group, but he didn't care at this point. I admit, when you spoke your proposal then, I thought you've become crazier, but seeing how things worked out makes me think I've gone crazy. Mike added, still just as baffled by how far they've come. Yeah, who thought investing a few tens of thousands of bucks every month in the homeless of Gotham would create such force of venomous people? Barney might not have noticed it himself, but he sounded envious while saying that, leading the group to eye him strangely. They've become extremely rich at this point, yet Barney still wishes to keep everything to himself. That's what investing is, putting money into something with the expectation of profit, and we're already seeing a profit. We've basically taken over the entire street and are expanding to its surroundings without doing much. We still can't take over the crime alley as that will bring too much attention. In fact, the only reason we didn't get much resistance from the crime families is because of Batman. He seems to be quite active recently. It's fascinating what a bunch of people could do for a piece of bread. They could literally crawl themselves to the depths of hell for a steady source of food which Ian gladly provided. The warehouse he lived in once was empty as pretty much every beggar moved to Ulster Street, not just for the food but also because of the 2 large warehouses Ian bought for them. The warehouses had numerous beds within and any daily necessities they might need. There isn't much privacy as everyone will be sleeping close to each other, but they're used to that by this point. Of course, Ian had to spend quite the sum of money to make that happen. He pretty much sold everything he ever stole, and he has been stealing with Selena, leaving only the diamond. He also provided them with new clean clothes, spending even more money. However, it was all worth it. He had an army of people at his disposals. He even hired some of them to work at his coffee shop. This many people would in theory lead to an increase in the crime rate in Ulster Street, but it was the opposite. Ian established a protection system in the area. Indeed, he went with the protection fee trick, except in Gotham it's a welcome trick. If the shops and stores wish for a safe environment, they pay the fees to Ian and the group, then the beggars themselves would protect themselves, and there is nothing more ferocious than a bunch of homeless people in need of money and have nothing to lose. The homeless will then be paid by Ralph as he oversees them. Of course, they'll get paid a small sum of that money, and in the end, the group ended up making much more money than they were spending. That wasn't the only benefit, as seeing their success, many groups started approaching them for money laundering business. They launder the money given to them and they get a cut, but as with all illegal businesses, there is a risk. The Ulster Street was pretty much taken over in a matter of weeks in its entirety. A street that was once the Falcons was that no more, and the thing is they could do nothing about it. They are pretty much the largest crime family in the city, and that's why their every move is easily traced and attracts too much attention. The Bat's attention was on them as theirs was on him. It's almost as if Ian planned the whole thing perfectly, to the point that even attempting to take back the street now is simply not worth it at all. However, he actually didn't foresee things to this point, it all just worked out. Ian started stroking his chin. He already sensed the strangeness in the streets of Gotham. Something major is about to happen. Have you thought it through? Ralph asked, as Ian's next decision will basically carve their future in the Book of Fate. I mean, what's there to think of? Every mob family is doing it, so why shouldn't we? It's not that much, but it's a start. Mike voiced his opinion. More money? Sold. I don't see why not. We already did some nasty stuff, so why not dig ourselves deeper? Barney's words attracted everyone's bizarre looks. His way of phrasing things is, well, special. Ian frowned, then shook his head. I've thought it through. We won't be going into the drugs business. In fact, we should stay as far away from it as possible. Their reputation has gone up to such an extent that several groups approached them for collaboration in the narcotics business. Ian brought his phone up, searched for something, and showed them. Do you see what this is? I showed it to you before. That new Flash hero? But isn't he far away from here? Mike wondered. We have someone more dangerous, Batman. The point I'm making is the surge in people calling themselves heroes who work against crime. Going into that business will definitely attract their attention. Ian explained. How is Batman more dangerous than the Flash? The latter is all flashy flash, super fast I mean, while Batman doesn't seem to be special. Doesn't he just wear a bat suit and jump around? Barney's focus was elsewhere as he spoke all the nonsense in his head. Batman has survived so far in a city like Gotham and even brought fear to its sinners. That in itself is a great accomplishment, but this isn't the topic of focus today. Batman must already have an eye on us, thus we should be careful and prepared for the worst. I absolutely see no benefit in involving ourselves in that business, so as always, I have a better idea. Oh, what is it? His words got their full attention. Ian mysteriously smiled. It's the art of screwing people over, or in this case, the crime families. Say what? Mike was baffled. They just talked about not doing something dangerous because it's dangerous, yet here he is talking about doing something suicidal. Just be patient, I will explain. It's actually quite simple. All we have to do is to screw them over, perhaps let Batman do the work, and then take all of their hard-earned money. Imagine just how much those old crime families have accumulated during the decades of their existence. Ian was passionate about his plans, but the same couldn't be said about the rest. But won't we just die? I know you don't mind, but I do. Mike spoke his mind and Barney seemed to agree as he said, I haven't even seen my dear yet, so I really don't want to die. Ian smiled further, seemingly about to speak the Gospels, the words of wisdom. That's the point. We might die, isn't that exciting? And no? He stood up. It's okay. I mean, it's just death. Anyway, I will be doing the majority of the work. You guys won't really have to do anything. You three just focus on our organization and the expansion. If any of you wish to pull out, you're welcome to do so right now. Otherwise, let's have some fun. Ian left them to do some thinking. They already know that working for him is dangerous, but it has been working out so far, so they were okay with that. Ian felt the responsibility to remind them of the risks. Perhaps he exaggerated a bit there, but he really needs them to know that he'll never change. Death will always follow him, protect him, and perhaps harvest the lives of those around him. He went to sleep and woke up the next day quite early. He usually woke up at 10 p.m., but today was different as his phone started ringing, which either means business or the cat had come. What? Ian muttered lazily. As lazy as always, and who thought someone like you can rise so high? A mischievous voice sounded from the phone. I'm just lazy because I can be. You would have had this luxury if you don't always lose everything, Ian casually responded as he stood up. Selina was silent for a second before she playfully responded, why be so harsh? But you're right, so why don't you teach me how to be like you, teacher? I assume you're on the roof. Wait for me to put some clothes on. Ian hung up directly after, failing to hear her next words, tempting ones, but she was just being naughty. Ian put on a long-sleeved black shirt, black clothes, and casual shoes. He then made his way to the roof, finding it empty. However, just like always, she was hiding in a place not visible from the roof door, and she moved swiftly once she saw him as he found her standing behind him. Too bad you're always in your costume, else we'd take a walk around the city. I've somewhere to go today anyway, Ian remarked as he faced her. Oh, is that a date? Well, I have a better idea for a date. Why don't you follow me? And make sure you keep up. You're quite fit, so I am sure you can do that. She gently whispered in his ears before she started walking towards the edge of the roof. Oh? That sounds kind of dangerous. I mean, that's how easy it's to get him to do anything. The sound of danger and the possibility of witnessing his power in action is something he will never say no to. Ian kept his eyes on her as she started running to the edge and jumped to the nearby building's roof like a feather. The distance between the buildings was only about 2 meters, so it looked like nothing to her. Ian hesitated not one bit as he followed after her, jumping after her as fast as he could. He continued to follow her from roof to roof, through the complex and tight buildings of Gotham. Oh, the theater. It's a favorite place of mine. I always come here when I want to relax. This jump is a bit harder, so be careful. Despite her saying how hard it is, it looked like a walk in the park for her, as if gravity ignores her existence. Ian, however, never hesitated as he again ran to the best of his abilities and applied what he knows about jumping to reach the nearby building, as far as 4 meters but a bit lower than the one they were in. He landed and performed a roll, minimizing the impact on his legs. It's been quite a while since I've done this, but I still got it. Oh, you have experience? I expect to have a laugh at your expense, but I guess not. Ian nodded. Of course, I'm quite the adventurous type after all. I've pretty much have done most things that can get me killed. HM? Could it be that you get off on danger and deadly situations? Selena frowned as she asked, now it makes sense why you did what you did in the museum heist. Kind of, Ian simply answered, not explaining any further, for what he gets off on is seeing how he'll not die rather than the opposite. Selena frowned further, seemingly hesitating before she just shook her head and ignored the subject. They made this way through another roof into a ladder, and then into a glass opening on the top of the theater. I used to come here all the time when I was younger, but I don't have that luxury now. Ian let out an amused smile. You've been a thief from your early days. I bet you've yet to pay for a movie ticket. Selena slightly blushed under her mask and turned her head away in shame. Oh, of course not. I paid for it like 1 time or 2. Ian let out a small laugh, quite amused. Right, I believe you. The sarcasm was obvious to all. Selena let out a pout and just ignored him, jumping into the theater while Ian took a deep breath to calm himself down. I swear she might have the bloodline of some kind of insane succubus bloodline. It's definitely not because I'm weak. Shush, and follow me, Selena muttered quietly as they stealthily moved through the hallways of the theater into the section of the theater auditorium. They circled through the theater until Selena found an empty auditorium. The movie was playing despite that. Empty, that usually means it's a shitty movie, right? Ian wondered as he took a seat. Selena took a seat next to him, usually, but there are some hidden gems here and there. None of the other auditoriums had many people. The theater doesn't seem to be doing well, yet it's still open in this side of Gotham. Ian curiously questioned. I heard it's funded by Wayne Enterprise at a loss, but they still do so. I heard that the Wayne Corp owner's parents died around here, so that's why he's probably still supporting it. Selena explained. I see. Now, let's get to the main topic. How did you lose all of your money? Ian was kind of in disbelief. They have been doing jobs together for months, making tons of cash, yet she lost it all. Well, it's complicated. She didn't get to speak any further as a loud explosion sounded throughout the surroundings, so loud it seemed to reverberate throughout Gotham. I have to go. Selena instantly stood up and started running from whence they came. Lucky or unlucky? Whatever it is, it sounds like an opportunity. Ian smiled as he stood up and made his way out of the theater's main door. Just casually walking out by its people. No one paid attention to him as everyone was either running in to hide or running out to see what was happening. I knew it. I felt the sin and darkness of the city rising lately, too many colors mixing together to form a mess. This is the mess. He can see it from the east end of the city. In the most central part of Gotham was a massive cloud of fire and dark smoke. Then the mess needs just a little bit more mixing for there to be darkness. Sounds like fun. Ian started walking back to the Cat's Rest until it dawned on him. Wait a minute, the mess is a distraction. So many things to take without a sliver of security. He picked up his phone and called Ralph. Listen carefully, gather about 10 of the most trusted boys and prepare the radios, and do exactly as I say. Leave Mike to keep control of our territory and keep an eye on Barney not to do anything stupid. Do this first as quickly as you can, then we'll talk. Ian then went to his car and started making his way to his own secret personal apartment. He brought some stuff from and started driving to central Gotham without ever touching the brakes. He seemed to be the only one heading there while the rest of the people were escaping in the opposite direction. His driving was straight up suicidal but efficient, leading him to his destination before Ralph's call came. What do you need us to do? Even Ralph was nervous because he had never heard so much urgency in Ian's voice. Do you remember the heist plan I told you about a month? Yes, we'll be moving it ahead, and by that, I mean now. Wait, but you said the plan is for like a year later, and it wasn't even a plan, you were just speaking your mind. Ralph was perplexed as the plan was basically a death sentence. Trust me and do as I say. Get the guns and the truck and go to the Falcone warehouse in the crime alley. You can handle the situation however you like. This is your chance to shine. Ian's voice was tranquil and almost hypnotic, giving Ralph all the courage he needs. Ian saw this as more of a test for Ralph. He wanted the egg to hatch. He could see the potential in Ralph, someone who just wants to live life and doesn't necessarily care for death. He still needs just a little step to get over the natural fear of death humans have. However, I can't bear to let you take all of that risks, so let me give you a hand. Ian let out a sigh before changing his direction to a place not far away, quite close to central Gotham. He parked the car right before the door of a huge mansion, put sunglasses on and a wig in his car's glove box. He then exited the car, hearing the mansion guards yelling at him right away. Who are you and what are you doing here? Never mind, leave right away. The guards were strict and there were many of them. You either have an appointment with the owner of the house or you don't. My first kill is kind of to help a friend? Who? Ian completely ignored them and just shook his head with a smile. Just as he was about to pull his gun out and shoot, a gunshot sound reverberated throughout the surroundings, what seemed to be a high-caliber round which left a sizable hole in the guard's head. Okay. A sniper? This was certainly not within his expectations as he looked around while a sequence of sniper shots sounded, making all the guards fall to the ground. Ian scratched his head for a moment before he just shrugged his shoulders and brought the already prepared grenades from the car. He then threw them at the house. There was a long silence after all the guards fell to their death and no other gunshot sounded until he was getting into the car. At the same point, the grenades exploded, then a sniper bullet passed right by his head, but he didn't see it nor did he hear it due to the explosion. The purpose of the grenades was just to attract attention, not just of the mansion owner but also the rest of the police, but especially the attention of the Falcone family, for the one who owns it is none other than its leader Carmine Falcone. Someone else is targeting the Falcones? I wonder why they didn't shoot at me though. Oh well, this is better anyway. I guess taking a life is just not destined for me. Not far from the mansion on a specific roof were two people, both attired in the same black outfit. One was standing frozen in his place. He was carrying a sniper in his hands, preparing to put in a briefcase next to him. His partner was the one who was lying on the ground and seemingly aiming at something. Why you missed? The standing assassin questioned with bafflement. Why yeah? His partner answered. Confusion was apparent in his tone. How? I don't know. It felt like the explosion distracted me, but that has never been a problem before. The head won't be happy about this. At least we have an approximate description of the man. He was definitely not one of the Falcones, but that matters not. Just be ready to accept your punishment. That didn't deter the partner one bit. His eyes were seemingly emotionless as his but a tool for killing. I understand. For now, let's inform the head of this, then continued on our next targets. So many pieces were moving in Gotham, each with their own goals, agendas, all at the same time, to the point a few sleeping heroes had to wake up. I've been back for just one day and Gotham is already being Gotham, a certain man said before adding, Bruce might need my help. I guess I need to be his sidekick one last time. Another admirer of the Bat was already near the massive explosion's location, someone who had worked with him many times, Batgirl. Something grand was happening. Strange things were happening throughout the city all at the same time. The Gotham City Police found themselves confused on what to do. Too many crimes were happening on the same day. The new Gotham Police Commissioner, however, was quite capable. He's extremely experienced and has been in the force for decades, though he only recently attained his current position. It's commendable for a good-hearted, uncorrupt officer to reach such a position in a city like Gotham. He started by spreading the PD forces throughout the city, but focused more on the most major thing that happened, the massive explosion in central Gotham. And central Gotham is the place Ian was currently in. His purpose wasn't to get himself into trouble, but just to scavenge things. He noticed many strange incidents and gunshots on the way. It was like the city was dormant, and it has just been awakened, becoming quite lively, though not in a good sense. The center of the event seems to be the building before Ian, with most of its top utterly destroyed. The cops were already surrounding the place, though they were staying far away from the building in fear of it falling crumbling down on them. I guess I have to go cat style, Ian muttered to himself before making his way to an accessible roof of a nearby building and started jumping from roof to roof without alerting anyone. He entered the building from its back door and directly headed to the elevator. He noticed it was already used and it was heading up, not down. He waited and just watched the elevator number change until it stopped on floor 19. He waited for a bit before calling the elevator back and going to the same floor, a mess of a floor. Most people have already escaped the perimeter, but those that are still inside are either dead or close to dying, with the exception of a few strange bunches. The 19th floor was a bit different, as it appeared to be a calculated massacre, not by the explosion but by guns and swords. Ian just had to walk deeper into the floor to discover the individuals behind the dreadful deed. "Oh, she's here," Ian muttered to himself, noticing 5 people in the hall: Catwoman and another girl dressed in a bat suit, a man endowed in a similar black suit with a blue eagle symbol on the chest part. He seems to be Nightwing. Facing them were 3 strange individuals, each stranger than the other. A man with a hook for a hand, another wearing some strange black suit with red lines, and some kind of robotic thing. They noticed him just as he did as they turned their head to him, though Nightwing remained vigilant, paying attention to the other enemies before him. "What are you doing here? Did you follow me?" Selina questioned, a bit confused. Batgirl frowned as she eyed him from top to bottom. "You know him? Is he like you?" Ian assessed the situation, having a sudden realization. "I was curious, so I came here, but it seems that this was a distraction." Nightwing narrowed his eyes. "What does that mean?" On the other hand, the hook guy frowned and whispered to his partners, "Don't let him leave. You know, I'm the master of distraction, so I know exactly how it goes. The cat there will attest to that." Nightwing questioned, "Can he be trusted?" He asked despite not trusting her either. Selina nodded with a frown. So the main thing should be happening somewhere else, Ian thought to himself, finally comprehending the perpetrator's plan, or part of it at least. "Anyway, it seems that you guys are busy, so I'll leave you to it." He then turned around, ready to look for possible opportunities in the middle of chaos. "You're going nowhere," the enemy with a hook for a hand called Hook spoke as he lifted his hand to shoot Ian. Ian was basically defenseless, and his reaction time was certainly not fast enough to evade it. However, Nightwing was, as he also lifted his hand using a small portable grapple gun on it to rescue Ian. And he did indeed, as the grapple gun pulled him into a wall to the side, and he caught Ian on the way, somehow avoiding the bullet. Both were rolling on the ground until they slammed into the wall. It was, however, not so easy, as Nightwing was unresponsive to the new threat close to him, the robotic enemy Rictus. Its speed was incredibly fast, as it seems to be made solely of metal and advanced technology. Its hands were clenched ready to punch the duo. Neither Cat nor the Batgirl was fast enough to do anything, yet they found themselves baffled at the scene before them. It was the scene of the floor roof falling down on Rictus, and even the ground beneath it crumbled. The fire of the explosion that was devouring the upper floors was the cause, despite the convenience of the situation. or at least that was what the people in the hall presumed. "Okay," Ian muttered under his breath, still not used to how effective his power had become. It was nowhere near this level in his previous world. This is the effect of my power, right? If so, doesn't that mean? "Thank you, but can you let me go now?" Ian said to Nightwing, getting the latter out of his bafflement. He got his bearing back and said, "Leave right now. I'll have a word with you later, and Cat." Nightwing then started making his way to his opponents, ready to act at moment's notice. "We should deal with this as quickly as possible. Batman might need us," he said to the duo, and then the fight started. What has happened to Rictus made it much easier for them, giving them an advantage, though Nightwing didn't think that'd last for long, as that plump of metal wouldn't be so easily solved. Ian, on the other hand, seemed to not have heard a word, as he was just looking at something in his hand. "I've used something similar when rock climbing, but never one this advanced and small. It's quite interesting." What was in his hand was Nightwing's grapple gun. He did wonder how it's fallen from Nightwing. It looked like it was tightly attached to his arm. Then he used the whatever rule and just ignored the thought. I wonder how it works," Ian muttered as he walked to the massive glass windows of the hall. He pulled out his gun whilst ignoring all the ruckus and the ongoing fight right next to him. He attached the grapple device to his hand, then shot the glass window before him, attracting everyone's attention. They even stopped their fight just to see the insanity unfolding before him. Ian lifted the hand with the grapple device, aiming at the side of the closest building. "Let's see, it should work like this." He pressed the button at its center just as a loud shout sounded, "Wait! Stop!" The yell of Nightwing fell to deaf ears as Ian was fully focused on the grapple spurting from the device and flying to its destination. He thought it was cool. "Ian!" The anxious and confused shout of Selina woke him from his stupor. "Cat? Be safe, okay? And see you later." His grapple device pulled him right at that moment, bringing a long shout from him, one of excitement. Even the villains in the hall were confused about the suicidal move of the man. Grapple guns don't work that way, right? For him, it does, as he was pulled right to the side of the building, barely avoiding colliding with it. The distance the grapple device had to pull him was simply too large for him to remain flying in a straight line. A change happened. He felt like Spider-Man, seemingly moving around buildings like a feather as he yelled in excitement. The grapple device seemed to stop working at some point, and Ian was just falling to the grapple tip was still attached to the building, and that allowed for something peculiar to happen. The grapple rope got stuck on a light pole, making him circle around it, lowering the gravitational force applied to him until he almost gently fell to the ground. It all seemed to work out just enough to avoid his death. "Okay?" That was. Ian took a deep breath and stood up. He then started pressing the grapple buttons until the rope was retracted. Holy hell, wasn't that exciting, though it did hurt a bit. But that's better than all the broken bones I've had to deal with previously. Ian started observing his surroundings, noticing a peculiar thing not far away. That's not that far away was the train track that passes through central Gotham. A train was passing by at an alarming speed. Its destination seemed to be the Wayne Court building. Ian could see two dark figures that seemed to be fighting. The speed of the train was no obstacle for them. They were but a dark spot in his vision as they were that far away. He frowned. "It seems that I'm late. As I thought, this should be the sonic bomb incident. I really wanted to acquire it, but if I am to take advantage of the future chaos in the future, I need to be prepared before it even happens." Ian shook his head as he started heading back home. Disappointment was apparent on his face. "I really wanted it. I also wanted the Batmobile. It's so cool. Too bad, I'm sure the Bat had many security measures in it anyway. At least the jump was cool." He then called Ralph and asked, "How did it go?" It was easy. There were only a few guards there, and we caught them by surprise. We're almost done transferring everything, but Ralph's tone was a bit shaky, as if he had yet to get his wits back from what he had just experienced. But what? We lost someone. He was shot down by one of the guards after hesitating in following the plan. The other ones had no problem killing people, but he did, and I didn't notice. Ralph muttered under his breath, seemingly in regret. Ian heard everything, so he offered his wisdom. You did well, but you made a mistake. Just make sure to never do it again. We have set sight on a position that forces that on us, but know that if you so wish to pull out, just let me know. Never be afraid of letting me know how you feel, and you yourself make sure this is what you truly want. Let the boys know of that as well. I don't want to see you guys regretting this in the future just because you've not thought it through, all right? It's not like Ian has no compassion, he does, he just finds it hard to show it under his numb emotions. Moreover, he never saw death as a problem. It's what it is, the natural flow of things. Death was never a fear of his. If it happens, then whatever. He was, however, looking forward to a change of perspective. Perhaps it will happen in a world such as this. No, I already decided. I want to be a part of this, Ralph responded almost instantly with determination in his tone. That brought a smile to Ian's face. Okay, let's meet up in the coffee garage. That's the safest place for us. Ian made his way to his car under the radar of cops and made his way back to the coffee. He noticed plenty of people circling around it. Each one of them is one of the former beggars now protecting the area, their home. The coffee was open as always. It was pretty much safe heaven for the Ulster Street's people. Nothing bad ever happens around it. That was why there were so many people inside, taking sips of their coffee with no care whatsoever, though everyone was still paying attention to the coffee TV for the news. Ian then made his way to the garage. It was quite large. Ian made sure to destroy a few walls in the renovation process to make it bigger, and within was a simple white truck. The boys were also inside. Barney was sitting on the ground just staring at the insides of the truck, and Mike was next to him. Ian glanced at Ralph, noticing a bit more life in him and perhaps more determination. He nodded at him before taking a look at the things in the truck. Guns, cash, bombs, and narcotics. Ian frowned as he spilled the last word. And we found this in a safe, Ralph said as he handed him a black pouch. Oh? Is that what I think it is? Ian took it into his hands and clearly felt those little things inside, bringing a smile to his face. He opened the pouch and poured a bit of the thing inside on his hand, a waterfall of crystals, beautiful little things. Ian remarked as almost 10 tiny diamonds fell to his hand, and there were more. Where that came from. The quality is subpar, I guess, but the quantity makes up for that. He then just shook his head and put the things back in the pouch. Who am I to complain? I only spent little to nothing to get them. And boys, well done. Ian then glanced at Barney. Are you okay? Barney, who seemed in a daze, woke up and mumbled, Yeah, I'm fine. However, we have so many things, like I'm in disbelief of how far we've come. Ian raised his brows at that. He meant something else when he asked the question. I meant her mentally okay. Do you want to stop? I can assign different jobs for you where you'll never have to use a firearm. What? No, I want to help as much as I can and go as far as you go for the jobs. Barney instantly shook his head as he stood up. This seemed to have become his passion, and Ian didn't think he would be able to do anything else more than this from the look in his eyes. Ralph voices his observations. It's okay, he took it even better than me. Ian let out a small laugh, brought a single diamond from the pouch, and threw it to Barney while saying, That's the Barney I know, and for that, you deserve this. Don't worry, it won't be counted in the final cut, so enjoy. Barney barely caught the diamond and just stared at it afterward. Ralph didn't let him get anywhere close to them beforehand, so the opportunity to hold it in his hands was. I can really have it. Ian nodded, leaving him to his celebration. He turned his attention to the absurd amount of drugs in the truck. now let's get rid of these, burn them in their entirety. What? Why? We don't even need to distribute them ourselves, we can just sell them to someone else. Mike couldn't help but voice his opinion, then added, "This is so much free money for all of us. It's what every crime family in the city does." Ian remained just as calm as gave a gentle, genuine reason. I don't like drugs or anything that takes one's free will. It can be as simple as that, money doesn't really matter that much." Mike, however, didn't really see the genuineness in his tone. What? We stole and did so many things, so why stop in this? Moreover, do we have no say in this? I can even manage the whole project myself. Ian turned his full attention to Mike, staring at him with his pale brown eyes, calmness never leaving his eyes. He kept at it for a full minute, making not only Mike nervous but also everyone else. Mike started to realize that perhaps he overstepped his bounds, perhaps the desire for money got to him, something common in Gotham. No. After a while, Ian finally started making Mike confused. No what? Ian released a sigh. He wasn't really staring at Mike but just zoned out contemplating a few things. No, you have no say in this, not one bit. I will not change my mind, and everything you all wish to do under the name of Cat's Rest will have to go through me. I can trust Ralph to make the right decision most of the time, but you two, not at all. You disappoint me, Mike. Even Barney, who we all know is Barney, didn't let all of this get over his head. Do you know what happens when you let greed control you without having the ability to bear the consequences? You simply die, cease to exist. A single bullet is all it takes. Ian approached the timid Mike and continued, "Whose bullet, you might say? Crime families, the heroes who kill. The moment you put yourself in that position, you accept the consequences. Do you think a family like the Falcone won't be able to trace their stolen drugs if they're out on the street? Do you take a family that ruled Gotham for decades for a joke?" Ian took a deep breath. I lost myself there for a second. But that all doesn't really matter. What matters is that I don't want to do it, thus it won't happen. He took one last glance at the shaky Mike, giving him one last chance. Get yourself back together. Letting your desires control you is rarely a good thing. An advice I do not abide by, but I have that luxury. Not everyone does, he thought to himself. Ian then started walking away. Ralph, follow me. We have a few things to discuss. He went on to set up a plan with Ralph, a major one that'll decide the future of the Cat's Rest. Why? Ian asked, confused. His left cheek was kind of red, as if he had just been slapped. Before him stood the seemingly angry Selina, who seemed to be getting madder by the second. Why, you say? I am the one who should be asking that question. So tell me why. Ian raised his brows. Could it be that you're talking about what happened yesterday? I was just curious, so I did what I did. Curiosity, you say? Ha ha ha. How are you so clueless? Selina was fuming, which made Ian confused until she added, was it also curiosity that made you jump to your death, or do you just wish to die? Oh? You were talking about that? Yeah, kind of. I just wanted to try the device and see what'll happen. His casual response drove her mad to the point that she tried to slap him again. He was, however, prepared as he jumped backward, barely evading the nimble cat's reach. You're avoiding me now, ho. Her madness was certainly unexpected for him. What the hell is happening? Is she mad because I might have died? Was it that big of a deal? She still tried to slap him again, and he started to see the worry, anger, and fear in her eyes. His common sense wasn't that broken after all. He just approached her instead of moving backward, which caught Selina by surprise. He pulled her to a hug, a tight one, not allowing her to do much anymore. Calm down, please. I'm sorry, all right. He hugged her tightly and started caressing her hair gently. She tried to hit him again with her hand, but his hold on her was simply too tight, so she just let it go and rested her head on his chest. I'm sorry, I don't know what got over me. Death is so scary to normal people. It appeared to be something she hates and fears. I guess my numbness to death has gotten to such a degree that I never see it as a problem even if the people close to me die. I always knew that this isn't normal, so what am I? Where did my gift come from? He set aside his contemplation and just focused on her. No, it's my fault. We've become so close yet I'm still so insensitive. I didn't think about how you'd feel at all. I guess I can tell you, you will figure it out sometime in the future anyway. Tell me what? Selina softly asked. Ian took her hand and started leading her somewhere. Just follow me, I will show you. He led her to his car while avoiding the prying eyes of people. He then started driving in a certain direction, all in silence. He stopped right as Selina regained some of her calmness. His goal was the top of a building right next to the Gotham Museum of Antiques. What are we doing here? She wondered, a bit confused though a possibility did surface in her mind. Ian said nothing as he pulled her with him to the edge of the roof. Come to think of it, this is the first time I told anyone about my power. Wait, what if I tell someone extremely dangerous and smart to find a way to kill me? That sounds so entertaining. Who should I hire? It'd have to be a villain. He tried his best to keep calmness on his face as he got lost in his thoughts. Darkseid should be able to do it, right? What if I stay on a planet and he destroys it? What'll happen? It was like the opening of an entirely new universe to him, as if he has opened his third, fourth, and fifth eye. So many possibilities and infinite years with little to no boredom, just exploring the extent of his gift. Talk about being insensitive. I am not really being insensitive, right? I mean, I can't die, so it doesn't really matter. Even if there is something that can kill me, I will just think about it then if I can after death. Ian convinced himself that he was actually not screwed in the head and turned his attention to Selina. You must have noticed some irregularities around me by now, didn't you? Just assume that they weren't due to luck, and you should understand. Selina frowned, noticing the seriousness in his eyes, and truly thought things through. Your plans are always dangerous and could lead to your death? Isn't that just because you get off in dangerous situations? Unless you're talking about how it felt when we kiss. Never mind. She thought about it so much that she almost slipped it out, but Ian caught that anyway. He just ignored the apparent blush on her face and asked, "Oh? How did you feel when we kissed?" Selina became even more embarrassed as she stuttered. I said never mind. Okay? No, I really want to know. It's important. Did you feel weak? Like you're going to pass out? Ian emphasized that quite a bit, his face still just as serious. Why yeah, I felt weak. It was strange to the point I thought you drugged me or something, but I would have smelled it if you did, so I didn't think much about it. As she spoke, her embarrassment started fading as she had a clear picture of what he was insinuating. I witnessed a few supernatural events, and even fought some with Batman long ago. Could it be? Ian's thought process was on another point. You felt weak just from a kiss? It was nowhere near that bad before, so I've never worried about it. But now? What if I was absorbing your life force? That would explain why you felt weak, but that doesn't explain why it happens only when I am in intimate situations. His unending mumbling got to Selina's nerves as she shook him out of his thoughts. Please calm down and explain. She also stopped him because of embarrassment. She simply couldn't find it in herself to tell him that she felt that weak because of how good it felt, too good for it to be normal. Ian was still frowning. The thought of him actually absorbing the life force of women he's intimate with is certainly not appealing. I was never really trying to hide it, so I thought you would have figured out something by now. You remember how I just ran out of this museum under the rain of bullets yet I was intact. Think back on how dangerous other jobs we did were under my planning yet we always succeed. Selina nodded. She indeed found those things strange but never gave them much thought. Luck was one of the most important factors for criminals, one they don't actively think of but wish for. She also knew she wasn't much of a planner, so his plans always sounded good to her, and since they worked, she never really doubted them. Indeed, there seems to be a lot of people like me in the world, so it's not that strange, but my gift is a bit special. My plans have always been under one rule: make a plan as dangerous as possible to the point of certain death for me, and my gift always does its job and reverse that to a certain extent. My gift simply allows me to resist death, though I've come to understand that it's much more than that. I see, that's why things are always strange when you're under dangerous circumstances, and you brought me here to show me how it works by jumping off the building, right? Selena stated with a frown. Exactly. Can you imagine what would happen if I jumped off the building? What miraculous thing will occur to resist death? Ian was amused just imagining that. Don't do it, and I don't want to imagine. She spoke. Annoyance was apparent in her tone. Why? I just told you that I can't die. Ian was genuinely confused. What if someday your gift fails to work? What if you die? How do you think the people who care about you will feel? Selena was understandably quite worked out. Despite all he said, the possibility of death was her only focus. If you wish to live your life like this, a step away from the gates of death, then why are you getting close to people? Why drive them to care for you, thus fear your death? She was almost shaking with emotions. This was certainly not how Ian pictured it'd go. I need to calm down. Then she just walked away. Ian didn't stop her, he just took a seat on the edge of the roof, too much into the edge. He could see very few cars coming and going even under the night sky as he murmured, except I never tried to get close to anyone from the start. Things just happen because I can never act in a way that I am not. Ian closed his eyes as he rested on the edge, thinking of something actually serious. If I actually absorb the life force of those I come in contact with, then that'd be a problem, especially with how effective my gift has become after my arrival here. I should keep my distance and perhaps always have gloves on. He opened his eyes after a while, and eyed the massive distance from where he is to the ground, feeling not a sliver of fear. I simply can't resist. Perhaps I am insane. And then he simply moved just a tiny bit, starting a free fall that'd certainly lead to certain death. For a normal person, that is.
And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out a lot and keeps me going. Plus, it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.